I'd like to call to order this first meeting.
Progress.
Oh, thank you. I'd like to call to order this first meeting of the Birmingham City Commission in 2026 at our new time of 7 p.m. here at City Hall, 151 Martin Street in Birmingham. If you could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Ms. Bingham.
Mayor Ballard.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Long is absent. Commissioner Haig.
Here.
Commissioner Host.
Here.
Commissioner Kolb.
Here.
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Here.
Commissioner Treslaw.
Here.
Okay, we have proclamations, congratulatory resolutions, awards, appointments, resignations, and confirmations, administrations of oath, introduction of guests, and announcements. The first thing we have is a proclamation. I believe it was written by our museum director, Leslie Pilak,
In collaboration.
in collaboration with our communications director, Marianne Gamboa. And although I will read it and sign it on behalf of my fellow commissioners, proclamations are not about who writes or delivers them, but to call attention to and commemorate things that matter to our community. And that's exactly what tonight's proclamation does. It recognizes and encourages Birmingham's celebration of our 250th anniversary. I recall the bicentennial 50 years ago. In 1976, I was enrolled then at New York University when the tall ships sailed into New York Harbor, and it still brings chills up my spine. And it weighs on me, as it does on many of my fellow citizens, that as we have strived for the last 50 years to create a more perfect union, the experiment in democracy that we will celebrate this year remains very much that, an experiment. We will celebrate the Constitution, to which all of us up here have taken an oath, even as we see it tested almost daily. We will celebrate the rule of law, on which our system has endured, even as we see that tested daily. This isn't a partisan point, it's a civic one. The Constitution doesn't belong to a party, and the rule of law doesn't belong to an ideology, and freedom doesn't survive on slogans and celebrations. It survives on restraint, accountability, independent institutions, the truth, and everyday citizens like you and me who believe in our system and are committed to seeing our experiment succeed. We have fought many battles over the past 250 years and lost many souls to the cause of the freedoms we'll celebrate this year. So let's celebrate proudly, gratefully, and with clear eyes. So I have the proclamation celebrating 250 years of American independence in 2026. Whereas the United States of America will celebrate the 250th anniversary of its founding on July 4th, 2026, and whereas this important milestone provides an opportunity to reflect on our nation's rich history and highlight our local history that gives Birmingham character within the bigger picture of the American story. And whereas throughout 2026, Birmingham will host special activities to celebrate the people and history behind the city's parks, downtown, neighborhoods, civic heritage, and unique sense of place. And whereas a new exhibit at the Birmingham Museum's Allen House features a special look at Birmingham's story and our indigenous heritage in America's historic context. And whereas the 250th anniversary celebrations will foster a renewed sense of pride throughout our community, now, therefore, be it resolved with this official proclamation that I, Clinton Ballard, Mayor of the City of Birmingham, on behalf of the City Commission, citizens and businesses of Birmingham do hereby proclaim the year 2026 as a time for celebrating America's 250th anniversary and Birmingham, Michigan's contribution to our local history, and urge all citizens to participate in the various events and activities designed to commemorate this historic milestone. Okay, thank you. My soon-to-be temporary Mayor Pro Tem reminds me that our Mayor Pro Tem, Anthony Long, is absent, and so we need to nominate and approve a temporary Mayor Pro Tem. I will nominate Therese Long as temporary Mayor Pro Tem. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for reminding me. And on we move to appointments. We have an appointment to the Cable Casting Board. Mr. William Frickman. Mr. Frickman, you're here. Hi. Please approach either of the microphones and tell us why you're interested in joining the Cable Casting Board.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Commission. It's a pleasure to join you tonight and speak about my application to the Birmingham Area Cable Committee or Board. My wife and I have been residents in the city of Birmingham for 29 plus years. My wife ran a business in the city for a number of years. We've raised our kids here in Birmingham. I was an active coach in Little League and BBSC soccer. Professionally, it was a career at Ford Motor Company that brought us to Birmingham area, and I had an opportunity to lead a number of technology projects at Ford. I'm now semi-retired, and I view this as an opportunity to continue to give back to the city, the community that we've now call home. So it's my pleasure. I think it marries my commitment to serve and give back to the community, as well as my interest in technology. And again, spent much of my career working in technology at Ford. So I look forward to the opportunity, should my application be accepted, to join the Birmingham Area Cable Board. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Frickman? And do I have a nomination? Commissioner Host.
We're going to be lucky to have you, so I'd like to nominate William Frickman to the Cable Casting Board as a regular member to serve the remainder of a 3-year term expiring March 30th, 2027.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, sir. The clerk will now swear you in.
Raise your right hand. Now say I do after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of this state, and endeavor to secure and maintain an honest and efficient administration of the affairs of Birmingham, free from partisan distinction or control, and to perform the duties of the office of Cable Casting Board member according to the best of my ability.
I do.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We now move to open to the public for matters not on the agenda. We have a new system, and the new system is not picking up the rules for this section. Maybe we can add those in the future, but basically you get 3 minutes. We don't promise a reply, and typically we do not engage in back and forth. So come to the microphone, introduce yourself, and away we go.
Good evening, David Bloom. Happy New Year, everyone. The first remark I'd like to make is to congratulate the mayor for the important and relevant remarks he made prior to issuing the quarter millennium 250-year proclamation for the city. The second thing I'd like to do is to suggest that the city look at hiring Plant Moran or someone else to conduct an audit of the books at Next to make sure that they are prepared and have the funds and the capability to run the building should they move in there. And if they don't, at least we'll know about it before they do, and we can work on some type of mitigation plan. The second thing for that building is, since if Next moves in and they won't be using the swimming pool, the city runs 2 golf courses successfully, an ice rink, and tennis courts. Why can't we run a swimming pool? There are a lot of people, I'm not one of them, that count on using that swimming pool. It's an asset to the community. I don't think you can just mothball it. And so I think it probably needs to be run. And if you're not going to let the Y run it, then we should try and figure out how to run it ourselves at cost to the residents. I'm not saying it should be free. Whatever the insurance is, or maybe incorporate it or do something, pay the insurance, charge for usage of the pool, and keep the pool going so the community doesn't lose that asset. My next set of remarks relates to the community house and some of the communications that have been going on by private residents and people on the commission. I don't know who did what, and at this point, and who's at fault. At this point, it doesn't matter. We have an asset that the community may lose. This is an asset for the community. If a nonprofit wants to move in and that nonprofit is not doing something that's of direct benefit to the residents of Birmingham, it doesn't help the community, regardless of how supportive I am of that particular nonprofit or not. I've even talked to people that are Catholic that would not want to see or Birmingham residents would not want to see the Archdiocese move into that building. I don't know how Federation would be using that building if they are. If there is going to be a community component for that building, if they're using it, the question is how would they do it? Unfortunately, in the times we live in, if the Federation moves in there, that building will be a target. And they will need to have extra security, and how the community can interact with that and how they can have that security while allowing the public to share that building, I don't know. And it's an absolutely horrible thing to say, particularly because I'm Jewish. And I would encourage the city to proactively reach out to Federation and ask them how they intend to use the building and have a positive discussion and not engage in lawsuits, because that will just lead to a lot of expenses and heartburn on both sides, and it's something that I don't think anybody wants. And those are my remarks for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Linda Solomon, and I've lived in Birmingham for many years. My studio is on Purdy Street, and I want to wish all of you a happy and healthy new year, and thank you for your support for the heart of our city, and that's the Birmingham Community House. A group of us have formed a committee, and we call ourselves the Visionary Arts Council of Birmingham, because we have a vision for the future of the community house, and we are willing to volunteer our time to teach classes and organize events so that there is a future for Birmingham residents to enjoy for another 100 years and more. Everyone's invited. We're a very diverse group. We want all ages of the community to feel they can be a part of their house. Unlike the 7 members of the board of the community house who chose to ignore our community, everyone in this room, before they made a decision to sell our landmark. I want to read to you one person's point of view who said, after a century plus of service, we have survived as a community house world wars, the Korean, Vietnam, and Gulf War, the Depression, the stock market crashes, 9/11, societal changes, and COVID. The community house survived through this. And yet, the current board didn't ask any of you, how to help continue. I read something on Facebook from a Birmingham resident that I'd like to share with you. And this person said, and I quote, "In line with my mom's wishes, we will be holding a celebration of life for her at the community house in Birmingham. This is a location close to her home of 40 years. It is where she took us kids for day camps and piano recitals. This is where my mom celebrated marrying my dad." So I am here so that members of this community can continue to have their house, our house, for events like this. And I thank you for your support, and I thank you for wanting to maintain the heart of Birmingham, and that's the Birmingham Community House.
Thank you.
Good evening. Mike Cliff, 723 Oakland Avenue. Well, it's 2026 now, and the clock is ticking on the decision of how to best serve a community interests with the soon-to-be former YMCA building at 400 East Lincoln. I think it would behoove all of us to remember that this building has served as a de facto indoor fitness and aquatic facility for Birmingham citizens for over 60 years. I'll concede that the facilities are no longer shiny and new, but they're not presently in need of significant investment to operate. Since the citizens of Birmingham ponied up the lion's share of the purchase price for the property, I believe we have every right to insist that the city.
Careful now, city.
I would do that. I'm going to try city. That the city employ 100% of the building to retain indoor fitness programs that we've come to depend on. This doesn't seem like a big ask to me. While another local community has decided to shell out $22.5 million for a new aquatic facility, we're only asking that the city of Birmingham continue to operate an existing facility. The citizens of Birmingham have relied on the fitness program that the Y has provided and are now trusting that you will find a way forward to that outcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Paul Reagan. I won't take up a lot of your time because I know you've got an ambitious agenda. I do want to talk a little bit about the approach of the city to the community house issue, and in particular the legal stance that we've taken, which is, in my view, belligerent, non-productive, and it will fail. In the end, in the final end, regardless of the approaches that you take to their not-for-profit status, to the deed restrictions, you've guided your attorneys to a place that you want them to be. It's responsible. It is your responsibility to guide them properly. They will do what you ask them to do. They will find a way, but they will fail. In the end, the community house will be sold. And if you continue down this line where you have no plan B, you'll be left at the train station, flat-footed, wondering what the hell happened. What could we have done differently? So let me suggest this to you. Make an offer. Make them an offer to purchase the land. You'll be supported by the community. It's your way out. It's everyone's way out. It is the win-win for both of you. The community house needs money. They need cash. If you go lengthy into litigation with them and force them into bankruptcy, a bankruptcy judge will seek the one thing that they will need, the ability to pay creditors, and there's only one way to do that: sell it. And he will order the sale. And again, we will be left out in the cold with no recourse. What we need to do is buy it, not finesse it. Let's just buy it. Preserve a lot of the goodwill. My second comments have to do with the YMCA. I am crestfallen that the result of all of this, all of the discussion, has led us to see the YMCA leave the town. You may or may not be aware that they're pulling their staff out, and they're going to close far earlier than any of us had anticipated. That means all of those children's programs, all of the swimming, all of the gymnastics, all of the seniors programs, all of the yoga, all of the fitness, all of it is gone. We all lose a tremendous set of services to this town, gone by a world-class group known for their ability to provide those services. In a building, let's talk finances, that costs $500,000 to $650,000 a year to operate. There was only one group that could operate that building at no cost to us, and they're leaving. Who's going to pay for it now? Well, we are. Are you ready to pony up the $500,000 to $650,000 to operate that building? I don't think you are. I don't think the public is ready to pony that up for a building and a group that was willing to do it for you. Maybe there's a way to salvage that. Maybe it's not too late. It is 11:30 on their time. You'd have to invite them back. Maybe you'll do that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I was going to, I have a couple of comments about both those topics, and as long as folks are here, we might as well go over them. Because we've received numerous communications about the YMCA and the community house. So with regard to the YMCA, if you are not aware, the organization last week announced that it would cease operations in Birmingham at the end of April. So as I said, the city's received many inquiries. It's appropriate to summarize what has occurred. The YMCA sold its building to the city several years ago because it faced insolvency. It needed fast cash and intended to move out and consolidate its operations in Royal Oak. The city attempted to honor the Y's subsequent request to stay in Birmingham, but since the YMCA had no money to contribute to the capital improvements necessary, the city would have borne the full burden of capital costs. The commission ultimately decided that we could not afford to do that. And while we are permitted under state law to use tax dollars to support senior services, there is no such provision allowing us to support private nonprofits such as the YMCA. The city is not evicting the YMCA. The YMCA sold its building to us and has chosen, given the circumstances, to move. Had it been able to contribute to the substantial costs of a new building, things may have turned out differently. But it has told us repeatedly it has no interest in continuing to operate in the existing building. The Commission sympathizes with every member of the community who has expressed concern about the closure of the Y. Many of us wish the Y and its supporters had begun a capital campaign focused on the Birmingham operation that would have kept the money in Birmingham for Birmingham years ago, when these developments might have been predicted. But now we are seeing the limits of government's ability to step in when private institutions that are integral parts of the community fail. The city bought the Y with the intent of making it a home for Next, our senior organization. The city was very explicit from the outset that it had no interest in owning and operating a pool. The costs of operation, maintenance, and staffing were deemed too great for a pool of that age in a community of our size. Only when the YMCA shifted gears and asked us to consider building a new facility that they could share did we consider having a pool. Now that the Y is out, we're back to square one, and we're likely to move forward with the original plan and make renovations to the building to house Next on the first floor of 400 East Lincoln. It is important to note that the building belongs to the city of Birmingham, and that renovations and the money to fund them were approved by Birmingham voters. There's no doubt that some in the swim community are Birmingham voters, and others are not. All, no matter where you live or what your opinion is about the pool, must respect the will of the voters, which is to renovate the building to house Next. As for the pool and the upstairs areas, several uses have been discussed as options, but there are currently no plans for those areas. I can assure the community that any use of those areas of the building would be a topic for future discussion. So that is our comment on the Y. On the community house, several weeks have passed since our last update. On the legal front, the city's request for a temporary restraining order to halt the sale, which was contained in the city's initial filing, remains outstanding. The community house, for its part, requested an expedited hearing on its motion for summary disposition. Today, the judge denied that motion to expedite. Furthermore, he sanctioned the community house and ordered it to pay the city's reasonable costs in responding to that motion to expedite because of procedural failures by the community house attorneys. As the court indicated, it has a significant backlog of cases. It will likely be months before it hears arguments on the motion for summary disposition. In the news, it was reported that the Jewish Federation of Detroit is the proposed buyer of the house, but that has not been confirmed by either the community house or by the Jewish Federation. The city remains interested in touring the building and learning more about its maintenance costs, but has so far not been afforded the courtesy given to numerous commercial developers when the property was placed on the market back in October, weeks before the community house made public its plans. I want to summarize the city's legal arguments. We contend that the community house abandoned the charitable purposes for which it was formed when it turned several years ago to a largely for-profit business model, and thus triggered provisions of its trust that would require it to relinquish the building to another nonprofit. That the deed restrictions and the trust under which the organization was founded dictate that the building forever remain a center for social, philanthropic, and civic activities for the residents of the city of Birmingham. And that having abandoned the purposes for which it was formed and being so limited by its deed and trust that it is wholly inappropriate to now take the proceeds of a sale to pay off debt and form a foundation that in no way fulfills the original intent expressed in the founding and subsequent documents. Let's move on. Consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion and approved by a roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of the items unless a commissioner or citizen so requests in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered under the last item of business. It occurs to me, Mayor Pro Tem, that I did not check for.
There were none.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone on the commission wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Commissioner Haig.
E-echo.
E-echo. Anyone else? Anyone in the public or online wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? If you're online, you can use the raise my hand function. Seeing none, can I get a motion?
Yes, motion to approve the consent agenda excluding item E, echo.
Second.
Second by Haig. Roll call.
Commissioner Treeslong.
Yes.
Commissioner Kolb.
Yes.
Commissioner Kozowski.
Yes.
Mayor Ballard.
Yes.
Commissioner Haig.
Yes.
Commissioner Host.
Yes.
Commissioner Haig, item E.
Okay, it's not for discussion. I'm asking for clarification of some of the information when we get to the public hearing. In the special land use permit amendment, item number 1, where it talks about the applicant may only receive deliveries at the hotel through van or similar-sized vehicles, I wish to make sure there is a way that we can ensure that happens, because there are frequently larger than van-sized vehicles doing delivery area, not necessarily to the taxman in the area. I just want to have an assurance of that, and that's what I would like to see clarification of at the public hearing, because it's just a statement with no quantification. Other than that, I wish to approve the motion as written because it's setting a date.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Haig.
Yes.
Commissioner Host.
Yes.
Mayor Ballard.
Yes.
Commissioner Long.
Yes.
Commissioner Kolb.
Yes.
Commissioner Kozowski.
Yes.
City manager's report, we have none. That's the, right, second meeting of the month. No unfinished business. Under new business, we have item A, a resolution to select, help me, Halcyon?
Halcyon Levine, as far as
Halcyon Levine, for the purposes of performing a comprehensive zoning ordinance update for the city in accordance with the specifications contained within Halcyon Levine's response to the city's request for proposals. Commissioners, I have suggested that this be treated less as a sales presentation and more as a sort of a kickoff, since this company received the unanimous support of the planning board, and they are the only ones to be talking to us tonight. So if you guys agree with that, let's proceed on that basis.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Nick Dupuy, Planning Director for the City of Birmingham, of course, with the Halcyon Levine team, who I'll invite up in a moment. For the sake of the public, credit where credit's due. I know you all do your diligence, and I'm pretty sure you guys have followed along rather closely here. But if you allow me a moment just to take you back through a brief history of how we got here, I'll do that. And it all starts with the Birmingham 2040, Birmingham Plan 2040, that is, which we adopted in May of 2023, almost 3 full years ago, excuse me. That document is designed to be a policy document, a policy guide, designed to guide Birmingham towards a vision of what Birmingham could be in the future. The first logical step as a planning tool out of a master plan is to address your zoning ordinance and your land use map. So we took a few actions throughout the course of those about 2.5 years, including joint meetings, where first of which we invited you to review what we called a prioritization of key actions that the planning board developed and you subsequently accepted at a subsequent meeting. We then discussed at a later joint meeting in October sort of the scope of work for the request for proposals that we were going to post. Fast forward to the fall of this year in September, we did post that request for proposals. We received 6 responses. If I may do so here, I'd like to take a moment to thank all 6 firms. We had 6 very good responses. We appreciate the efforts, and I'll be explaining that to them after the results of this as well. But just publicly, I said at the planning board too, we were very pleased with the responses we got. Very high quality, very thorough, and it almost couldn't have gone wrong. On October 22nd, the planning board did review all 6. Ultimately, they decided to move forward with 4 to the interview stage. In November, we did the interviews for all 4. We came into the meeting kind of open-minded. Maybe we select, maybe we don't. They were very good interviews. We decided that ultimately we'd like to take some time to reflect on those interviews and come back in December to make a recommendation to you all. In December, we met, the planning board, that is, reviewed the RFP responses, reviewed the interviews, went around the table, staff included, explaining what we liked about each interview and who ultimately we feel would do the best job, if you will, understanding that all could have done a good job, but the best job for the city of Birmingham in this case. We as staff, throughout the whole process, evaluated responses, discussed internally. We felt as though Housia Levine was the right choice in this case. It just so happens that the planning board also agreed that Housia Levine was the best choice. If I can summarize that lengthy conversation, they were really attracted to their high-quality graphics, which was a feature in our request for proposals, something visual, something our current zoning ordinance really doesn't offer at this point. We were really attracted to their analysis style with their high-powered GIS systems that I'll let them explain a little bit more, the results of which seem to be really, really cool, really modern, and really useful. We also were really attracted to their, what, out of these two, we garnered to be a really versatile, knowledgeable, high-impact team that they presented to us, which they'll introduce them to yourselves. They also have a really good national experience, and we thought not only were they've got a multitude of experience. We, of course, checked their references, all glowing reviews, but they were very selective about the ones they shared with us, very similar communities, affluent communities, similar size communities. That attention to detail ultimately led us to select Housia Levine as our recommendation to you. Some of the formalities here, y'all did approve a budget that had $200,000 in the 25-26 fiscal year for this project. This particular bid came in at 1999 about, which is under budget. So we should be good there, no budget amendments requested. There are some additional services that we are choosing not to select at this point based on their scope of work, but not necessarily closing the door on if you have some different ideas, we're open to them. We also, just generally speaking, followed all the public communication requirements. There really isn't any. It's not like a master plan. You don't have to advertise it to your neighbors and things. All of our public meetings were, of course, open, advertised, and during the meetings were open and advertised. So, if I may, invite you both up here, John and Carrie, to introduce themselves and outline a little bit of their scope of work for you.
Thanks, Dave. We'll keep this pretty brief. We know you have a full agenda, but first of all, Mayor and City Commission, it's great to be here this evening. We're thrilled to have been selected from the Planning Board and the interview process to work with you. I can't think of a better way to start the 2026 City Commission activities and the celebratory nature of the 250th anniversary of this beautiful nation than to redo your zoning ordinance. I say that tongue in cheek, but it's a really important endeavor for the city to undertake, and Nick touched on this. Your master plan, recently done a couple of years ago, really articulates a vision for Birmingham. Extensive community outreach over the course of a couple of years to establish a consensus on what Birmingham would like to be going forward based off the heritage of what you guys are right now. And it's not pretty impressive, it's very impressive. The next logical step is to set the table for that success, and the first thing is to redo your regulations in your zoning ordinance to set the table for private investment and to business to thrive and development to be done in a quality manner without a lot of uncertainty, to begin to deliver on the vision that the city articulates, not in response to the development community as they propose a project piecemeal. And the zoning begins to set the table for that deliberate execution over time of your vision. Housia Levine, I'm not going to pick up Mr. Mayor on what you said. This isn't a sales pitch, but a little bit of an introduction and an orientation to kick off the project. Again, I founded Housia Levine with Devin Levine 21 years ago. Born and raised in Michigan, one of 9 kids in St. Joseph, Michigan. Birmingham's beautiful, St. Joe, most beautiful city in the state. We've worked throughout Michigan on a number of master plans and zoning ordinances, from Battle Creek to St. Joe to Benton Harbor to Flint to Traverse City to Wyoming, all over the United States, several projects in Detroit. I wanted to say this back when we interviewed and submitted, but I couldn't because it wasn't finalized. This month, we'll be opening up a Detroit office with 2 full-time staff members for Halcyon Levine. So we'll be very near to here with a permanent office, fully staffed. We've endeavored to put forth a process and built our firm around graphic communication. We live in a very intuitive age. We eat and breathe graphics. We consume graphics and visually. We have to communicate visually in everything we do. So we dovetail text with graphics in our ordinances and our plans. The other thing that Nick alluded to is our leaning in and all-in approach to technology and the Esri platform. You use GIS now, Geographic Information Systems. It is the infrastructure technology-wise for everything the cities do in terms of zoning and planning and land use and documentation and infrastructure and transportation. We use it to even map outreach. We're an Esri Gold business partner. When we are done with this project, we will start with your zoning information and your GIS layers. When we leave, you will get a significantly enhanced GIS database given back to you when we're done. Everything we improve along the way, we turn over to you when we're done in terms of all the GIS information. We have crafted a process, and I'm just going to go through a little bit of the outreach we're going to be doing. And Carrie, who's going to be acting as your day-to-day project manager, she's going to speak in just a little bit. But outreach is a big part of this, and she'll go through how it's going to sequence. But at several different points over the next year and a half, we have these targeted communication campaigns. We don't just kick it off this way. We have 6 targeted communication campaigns at select points along the way over the next year and a half to engage, educate, inform, and get information back from the residents and business community and development community differently at each point along the process. So we have targeted communication campaigns for public education, introduction, project goals, and the process. Later, we have one specifically for preliminary recommendations and the framework, setting forth what we intend to do and why. A outreach campaign just around districts and standards, pretty specifically. An outreach campaign around development, building, and design standards later. Then we will be doing sign standards and the decision-making process. Most people only know about zoning insofar as they are engaged with it. And that's often not a fun experience, whether you need a variation or a special permit or development approval or a PUD. We examined that. One thing that I think resonated with the planning board and staff was, I believe, Nick, we were the only consulting firm to propose to do your sign code as well. So we will be updating your sign code in addition to your zoning ordinance. And that was part of our package, not as an option, but we just think you have to do it, right? It's an essential thing to do. And then developing an informational brochure, sort of the 101 of why we're doing things, what we're doing, how we're doing it, and getting feedback along the way. So zoning can be complicated. It shouldn't be. The biggest challenge most cities have is they get into the weeds too quickly, as opposed to saying, what are we trying to accomplish? And why are we trying to accomplish it? Get consensus around that. And then you can begin to talk about how can we tweak the zoning to help do that. But if you get into the details of zoning first, you sort of forget what you're doing and why. So over the course of the year and a half, we'll be doing stack kickoff and orientation tour of the city, branding, messaging, and designing collateral that will be used throughout the entire campaign. We'll have a project website. We use an Esri Hub website because it's interactivity with everything else that we're going to be proposing. Online questionnaires. Up front, we're going to be having focused group discussions with key stakeholder groups, whether they be home builders associations, local architects, local developers, local business owners, homeowners associations, whatever you want, detailed focus groups up front. An informational brochure to let people know a little bit about what zoning is and what we propose to do and why we are doing it to get their feedback. Different open houses at different phases of the process, so people can come just ask us questions on their schedule. It's not a set meeting and a presentation, but an open house with boards and stations where they can come up and talk to me, they can talk to Carrie, they can talk to Nick and his staff, and have a dialogue around these things as opposed to a consumable presentation about these things. And then lastly, the public hearing with the planning board, and then again with the city council at the end of the process to tie it all together. So that's a lot, I know. We love what we do. You can't really fake interest or passion around planning or zoning. We love what we do. We think we do it very well. We've worked with more than 500 cities across the United States in the past 21 years. And what we're able to do is bring our passion for this together with firsthand best practice experience across the entire country to maximize the absolute best calibrated zoning ordinance for Birmingham. And we're thrilled to have been selected and to start. I'm going to turn it over now to Carrie. She's going to get in the day-to-day PM, and she's going to just say a few words.
Good evening. Thank you again. My name is Carrie Papelbon, and I will be the project manager for this project. And as John was just talking about, really what we're going to be starting off with after we've done that initial feedback and kickoff to get kind of where we are, the baseline of where the city is and where you'd like to go with your regulations, getting some information about what's been challenging, what's working, and what should we just say, that's fine, let's not touch it. What we're going to do is take all of that information and synthesize it down and really start doing our homework. That's going to culminate in what we call a preliminary recommendations report, as John was talking about, and that's where we start to integrate the GIS system as well. So we are really going to be starting a lot of the analysis work right at the beginning after we've understood a bit about what the issues are, some of the goals of the project. We'll bring that back so that everybody is on board with what the recommendations are and how we proceed moving forward. Really, that is our framework for moving forward in the process and making those recommendations come to life with the revisions to the code as needed. But really, when you break it down, zoning can be kind of scary, and as John said, it should be pretty straightforward, and that's what we're really hoping to bring forward with this revision. So we're going to break it down into chunks. The first set, after we've gone through the preliminary recommendations, we're all on the same board, same page. We are going to start out with the fundamental portion of the code, the districts and uses. Where am I in this city? What zoning district do I have my house in or my business in? Where is my property within the city, within the context of the zoning district? And then what can I do with it? Really, what are the standards that I have to abide by? Setbacks, dimensional standards that go into how big can my lot be, et cetera. But that's just one set. Where am I and what can I do with my property? Then once we get that fundamental framework in place, we can build on that and move forward. So then we can start talking about some of the design elements. What are the landscaping standards that would apply to no matter where you are in the city? Regardless of district, you still have to do these specific things. That can go into lighting, that can go into parking, that can go into a wide variety of things that are really design focused. Then once we've had that discussion, we can move into updating the signs. Again, what are some of the goals for the city? What are some of the sign issues that you're facing? What are some of the things that your development community or your business community is bringing forward and saying, you know, this really works, but this doesn't work so well, but we're going to take a look at that as well. Once we get past that, then it's really just a matter of procedures. You know, what are the requirements for going through the process? What are those processes? Who's responsible for those reviews? So really, that's just how we kind of synthesize this. It's how we systematize it, going through these different phases just to kind of say, again, what can I do with my property and where is it? What are the standards to which I'm held? And how do I get those reviews that I need in order to move forward with either operating a business or putting an addition on my home, whatever the issue may be. Finally, we go and we present this to the public, and we present it to both the planning board and the city commission for adoption. And that will also include a bit of outreach at the end of the process, an open house, and definitely a lot of communication, because we do want to make sure that the community is involved and aware of these important regulations to which they are going to be held. As John mentioned, we are very much passionate about what we do, so we do get very excited about these things. We're very excited to be here to help you all along with this important project. If you have any questions, we'd really be honored to answer them.
Thank you, thank you.
And I think fundamentally it's worth noting, the best planning and zoning experts you have and insight into the community is Nick and his staff. And when they deal with the day-to-day, the residents, the business owners, they know the nooks and crannies. They know what it takes to literally implement the policy you give them to implement. We consider ourselves an extension of city staff. All right. When we think of the project team, it's not me and Carrie and our staff at House of Levine. It's me, Carrie, our staff, Nick and his staff. That's the project team. And that group working hand in hand with the planning board We have 6 working sessions and meetings with the planning board scheduled. So every 2-3 months, we're meeting with them to roll up our sleeves and dive into this stuff on those different chunks that Carrie talked about. Getting it right, going back, doing work, and then bringing back the next round to them. So it is a constant dialogue. It is a constant back and forth. It is open communication. So when we get to the end, everybody can see their fingerprints on it. And it is exactly what it needs to be for Birmingham. We don't have a couple meetings and disappear for 6 months. Just that's not how we flow. So we're thrilled to have been selected for consideration to assist the city with the zoning ordinance update. I was joking earlier, by the time we get done, you're going to love zoning. And it should be a very fun and engaging process for the entire community. So thank you for having us here this evening, and we'll answer any questions, Mr. Mayor, you might have.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Dupuy, would you mind please opening the door?
Oh, of course.
Thank you. Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams is our, was chairman of the planning board.
Brian
for this,
Williams, vice chairman of the planning board, although because of conflicts, Mr. Klein did not participate. So we had 3 meetings, which Nick has pointed out. They were long, extensive, not as long as some of your meetings, but long enough. We looked at, and I think it's important that you understand that each member of the planning board evaluated each of the applications, graded each of them, analyzed each of them, and I made the executive decision in November that we would not conclude our deliberations that night, that I wanted people to think about it and review the record, because there were materials submitted at the November meeting. So we came back in December. Each person on the planning board offered their comments, and it is the unanimous recommendation of the planning board that Jose Levine be selected. I think you've seen tonight that it's a pretty impressive team. John is very articulate. I don't want to say he stole the show, but he stole the show at the interviews. A couple of points I want to make, because I've lived in this city now for 52 years. We had bids from 2 what I call national firms, which frankly, going into this, I wasn't sure that we would get. We not only got 2 bids from national firms, but both of them came within budget, which surprised some of the members of the planning board. Jose Levine has tremendous national experience and Michigan experience, so it's kind of a unique combination that they bring to the table. An important part of their presentation and their materials is public input and the emphasis on public input. And I promised all of you when we last met at the joint meeting that that would be a high priority for the planning board. They're serious about public input. I think it's important for our community to have that. I also think it's important, frankly, that we take advantage of national trends also, and that we bring that to the table. Final comment I want to make is they wouldn't have bid on this project except for 2 things. Number 1, Birmingham's a pretty important city. It is diverse. It has a unique combination in this state of commercial and residential. And so it's attractive, obviously, to consultants to want this project. Lastly, they wouldn't have bid unless they felt confident in the administration and the planning department of this city that they could handle the project. And I'm confident that Nick and his crew can. I pledge to you one additional thing, and that is in our semi-annual meetings, a significant portion of each of those meetings, subject to, of course, the city manager's directives, will be dedicated to bring you up to date with what's going on. This is going to be a collaborative process on parts of all the parts of the city. Final point, you may remember when we started this process 5-6 years ago, that we said an important component of this project would be residential. And that's where we are. So that's my report.
Thank you. Thank you. As soon as possible, I'd like to see a motion on the table, but I'm not going to force that. If anyone either wants to make a motion or has questions or comments.
I have a question.
Sure.
So you talk about using AI, which I think is great. Do you use walled garden AI, or do you use open AI that's educating other LLMs?
Yeah, it's a good question. We don't propose to use AI as part of, and I said that one of the last questions, I believe, at the planning board was, how do we use AI? We don't use AI to write text for zoning or planning. We don't. We do have a product called Euclid, HL, and it's a planning and zoning assistant for cities. We have now cities in the United States that have already subscribed to it. It's a monthly thing. And the best way I can describe it is we use AI to help interpret the question. It handles planning and zoning questions. And this can be an add-on after adoption. So we didn't propose it as part of doing the ordinance. And the simplest way I can structure it for your question is, most people know that if you use ChatGPT or Gemini, AI tends to want to please the person asking questions. And it often does so by giving answers that are not correct. But it wants to, again, give answers. And it goes out on the internet and wanders around and finds the answers they think that are best. And there's a terminology in AI called hallucinating, and a lot of AI hallucinates. It's a technical thing. So when we use AI in Euclid, and again, we're not doing it to prepare the zoning ordinance, but in our Euclid, we use AI to interpret the question. Is it a zoning question? Is it a subdivision code question? Is it a planning or policy or visionary question? You might say, can I open up a Taco Bell at 312 Main Street? Well, the word Taco Bell does not appear in a zoning ordinance. The word Taco Bell does not appear in a master plan. But we use AI to interpret the question, and it'll say, well, Taco Bell is a fast food restaurant, typically with a drive-through, and then it will stop, and then knowing that the question is about a drive-through with fast food, it will then limit the answer to your zoning ordinance, your subdivision code, your planning documents. It will not search the internet for the answer. So Euclid uses AI to interpret the question and direct it to the right document. Then it is strictly from your city documents. It does not give answers that are general. So, but we do not use AI in our preparation of or drafting of the ordinance. That's an after thing, after we're done. If you want to do it, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I know you use ENCODE right now for your codes. So we could talk Euclid after adoption or nearing adoption, but we don't use AI to prepare the code.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Hay.
So my question is actually very much more minor. Really is. When I went through your proposed communications, you talk about things like city staff review calls up to 3. I was just kind of curious what constitutes a call, because it could be as simple as, hey, I've got a silly question, boom, done, and then at call number 4, the invoicing starts again. And I just wanted to get a little bit of clarification, because that is one of the types of tricks people use.
Yeah, that's a fair question. We don't do tricks. We don't increase or change order or say that meeting was whatever. We'll only come at you, quote unquote, for additional funds if there's a change in scope initiated by the city.
It's fine.
What that means, in the word call there, that is a setup time, maybe 1 or 2 hour call with city staff to get on a Teams call and go through draft documents or draft materials to chew through it with staff. It's a working session. But we would likely, Carrie may very well be on the call with Nick once, 2, 3 times a week just to clarify whatever else. That's not a call for purposes of what you're talking about. Those are meetings.
I guessed as much,
Yeah, I'm
but
glad
I
you
just
asked.
wanted the clarification of it. Thank you very much.
That's a fair question.
Any other questions? I have a question/concern, and that is that what is going to concern most people in this community is changes to our zoning. So we have framed this largely as a rewrite, as a reformat, as a clarification. There are going to be clearly times when our existing code is ambiguous or otherwise unclear, where you will have to clear things up. I think that it's important for you to note, whether it's color coding, putting it in bold, whatever, when you're doing something that represents a change. So that's one thing, either a change or a clarification. And in many cases now, it is the building official who interprets, and there are people who either agree or disagree with current interpretations. So in cases like that, it's useful to know if whether what you're settling on is an interpretation that has been provided to you by the building official, or you came up with it in some other way. When the code as written now is not crystal clear, okay? Yeah, I had something else, but it wasn't anywhere near as important.
Well, I'll respond to that, and then maybe it'll trigger the other
Okay.
thing you were thinking about. It's an excellent point. We're not interested in changing things for the sake of changing things. We're not interested in foisting upon Birmingham a code that some other community put into place. We're not interested in being advocates for trends nationally if those trends don't fit Birmingham's sense of place and character and an established, sense of who you are already. If we make a change to the code for clarification purposes or to address something that isn't adequately addressed now, we will make sure to note that. No offense to any attorney in the room. You should not need an attorney to interpret the zoning ordinance. Anybody ought to be able to pick it up and read it and understand what it is saying. If there is a section of the code that you're left scratching your head, like, I've read this paragraph 4 times, I just don't know what it says. So you have to go to Nick and his staff or the city's attorneys to get the official interpretation. That is something we ought to be clarifying in this update. When we do that or make a change, we will note that. They say 80% of people will admit that they are afraid of change. The other 20% just lie and say they're not afraid of change. Change is tough, but sometimes in order to keep up with market dynamics, development, the biggest trend in commercial development approvals now is residential, to make sure that it provides the pencilability or viability of commercial by integrating some residential component. That's the trend, right? That was one of the biggest changing thing. Light industrial, business parks, residential, commercial, retail, entertainment, the markets for those are rapidly shifting. And as you know, even a very nimble local government has a hard time keeping up with market dynamics. And this is our chance to get that right. So we'll do exactly what you said. It's a very good note. Yeah.
The other comment I had was that it's really important that you engage with the people who use our code and just go down. I'm not sure if it's that direction or that direction. I think it's down there. Community development. They have a lot of engagements, almost daily. Well, not almost daily, many daily, with builders, architects, homeowners who are actually using it. And so to the extent that you can get real-time feedback from those people as they're using it, I think it would be very helpful to you.
And this is worth noting as well. That's one of the biggest differences in engagement for zoning versus a comprehensive plan or a master plan. That's a little more visionary. It's a little more kumbaya, set up a stand at the local farmer's market and like, what would you like Birmingham downtown to be like in 10 years? That's a fun thing, but you couldn't ask somebody walking by with, buying their fruits and vegetables and tomatoes, what changes they'd like to see in the zoning regulatory nature of the commercial. Nobody knows how to engage that. That's why you have those focus group sessions up front. Homeowners, home builders associations, developers, people who engage the process, people who currently own a business. You ask business owners and developers what issues they have with zoning, they're going to come up with stuff most residents never even heard of. So pulling them off aside and having that in-depth conversation with how they engage the code or use it, it's essential. So that's right up front, and we engage those folks throughout. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Comments from the public? Online? Use the raise your hand function. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was watching the movement over there.
He's welcome to go.
No. You were.
Okay. All right, David Bloom on Wallace Street. These comments are to add to some of the, I think, appropriate and wise comments that our mayor just made. The first thing is, and I think the firm answered it, about marking changes to the current code when they're proposing new things, so it's easier for us to follow. The second thing I would say is, over the past few years, I've personally found issues in our current zoning code that require special attention. The first is non-conforming lots. We have areas, R1, R2, R3, R4, with non-conforming lots in those areas, and they're not clearly identified. And I think that that's something that should be looked at, to identify that, and then specifically try and spell out, if it's a non-conforming lot to that particular zoning area, what does that mean? What can and can't be done? The second thing is lot coverage. There are, and I think your comments alluded to this in general, Mr. Mayor, there are issues with lot coverage that are not clear. For example, how wide can a sidewalk be? A sidewalk up to the houses can only be 3 feet wide. Many new houses now being built have sidewalks that are 4 and 5 feet wide. So what does that mean? Is the whole sidewalk non-conforming? Is only the 3 feet get counted and the 2 feet on either side that's an addition and go towards lot coverage? None of that is actually in the code. So I think that, and we do run into serious lot coverage problems in this city. So I would ask the firm to pay particular attention to the lot coverage. And a specific area in lot coverage would be swimming pools. There's an interpretation by the building official of whether or not swimming pools are an accessory structure or not, and whether those can count towards the lot coverage. There are also issues with, how do you measure a swimming pool? And how do you measure the distance of between a swimming pool and the lot line? Is it from where the water starts, or is it from the concrete or tile edge of the swimming pool, and how far that extends from the water? There's an interpretation out there right now, the city measures from the water. So you can have concrete and tile all the way up to the fence of your neighbor, and you're still not in violation of the code. But if you're living there, you might not be happy with it. So I think particularly with the lot coverage issue and the non-conforming lots, that I would like to ask this firm to make sure that they're paying special attention to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I should have learned a long time ago never to follow David Bloom.
Name and
Paul Reagan.
Residence.
I live on Purdy.
Thank you.
It would be important to me to have our consultants know there have been issues here over the years. The public is highly involved. You might be surprised at how knowledgeable residents are about zoning and how much discussion we've had in the past. They focus on density. We have been subjected to, over the years, in the 2016 master plan and now with the 2040 plan, what I would argue are increases in density. And there's been significant public pushback. That density can be found in on the seams. You'll see in our planning documents references to these things called seams, and changes, significant changes, where there's been robust discussion about what they're suggesting. Perhaps you don't take those documents too seriously. They're still under contention. Another thing, and what might you see there also anywhere else? ADUs. Highly contentious. And I do realize on a national basis, there's a lot of legislation pushing back against single-family housing, but not here. This is where our wealth is, and it is in those single-family homes, and protecting the integrity of those assets is jealously guarded. ADUs, rentals, short-term rentals, that's going to be a very hot area should you choose to go there. There's one disappointment that I have, though, and it was in the bidding of this, and that is parking. Parking is not part of this. And I'm told parking is, well, you're frowning. It is part?
If parking standards are covered in your zoning ordinance, we will be looking at parking standards.
And they are.
And well, that's music to my ears. There seems to be some sort of, Brian's here, and he knows my position on this. You can't plan or construct anything with any type of intelligence unless you look at the parking requirements. And we seem to have forgotten that for well over 20 years. You're going to see evidence of that in the degree of density in our commercial district. It's nonsensical. We've run out of parking. Just be mindful. Thank you.
If I can, Mr. Mayor, real quick, only because if a resident says something, I think it warrants a response or the courtesy of getting back. So I'll just take them in order real quick. Nonconformity analysis of lots is the very first thing we do in our existing conditions analysis. We run GIS analysis on lot area and lot width. We will map all the nonconforming lots in the city, and we will identify where they are and by what percentage and/or enumeration they are non-conforming. It's one of the very first things that we do. Every zoning ordinance should have a nonconformities chapter. There's nonconforming dimensions, there's nonconforming structures, and there's nonconforming uses. Nonconformity is not one thing, typically falls into three categories. We will be looking at all three of those to find out what you have existing and where we could do that. The example of parking and housing are examples that I was referring to when I said just because something happens to be a national trend, we're not going to foist it upon Birmingham. We do work in California and a lot of other states. In California, all zoning properties, including single-family detached zoning, has to allow, as of right, 4 residential units without special approval on any single-family property. Primary structure, an ADU in the primary structure, and 2 secondary structure ADUs on one property, as of right. So we've gone from states that people don't like ADUs or multifamily or increased densities to states where it is their mandate and everything in between. So our charge is to do what is best for Birmingham, not to do in Birmingham what they may be doing in Washington or Oregon because they did it there. If it has no relevance, we're not looking to do that. The other thing we'll be doing on the front end is we'll be looking at your master plan and your current zoning and doing an alignment analysis. Is there anything in your current master plan that does not align with your zoning ordinance, and then bring those to light? So we can have the discussions you said about, do we want to have regulations do this or do we not? Here's where your plan and your vision and your regulations don't align. We will do that at the very beginning as well. So we will try to be as informed and as open dialogue, and every time we have a discussion, we will bring things to consideration with the rationale as to why we think maybe Birmingham should or shouldn't consider something, but never with the advocacy of you need to do this because it's a trend or it's a best practice. So that's our pledge to you that want to maintain the character, integrity, and sense of place that Birmingham has. Our job is to make sure Birmingham maintains that and is even a better version of itself going forward.
So I want to follow up with a question regarding non-conforming lots. In my head, I had a vision of what he meant and what you mean by non-conforming lot, but I want to be clear because things could, he talked about the width of sidewalks, for example. Are we going to be auditing every parcel in Birmingham to determine if there's some non-conformity on that parcel?
No.
That we're not aware of right now?
No.
Okay.
We will be doing an analysis of the parcel, not every improvement on it.
Right. So if a zone says 2,500 square feet per parcel, and this one's only 2,200 square feet.
Correct. We will flag that. We will not be measuring sidewalks or distance to existing pools, or we will not be doing that as part of this. That would be a little bit more than a year and a half and 199.
I think so. Okay, thank you for confirming
Just say
that.
it, yeah.
Commissioner A, you had a question, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Thank you. So as you went through some of those criteria, you talked about looking at the 2040 plan and the zoning. One thing that I remember in particular from the 2040 plan is a particular aspect where it states that we're a very small city. It's less than 5 square miles, but we have very distinct areas within the city with characters of each one. And within the 2040 plan, and Nick, correct me for the wording because I'm going to have to paraphrase, but we desire to keep the character of each individual neighborhood. So an R1 might happen in 5 of 7 neighborhoods, but it's actually executed very differently between them. I would like to make sure that you are sensitive to that, because I can tell you just literally walk around town, walk through Poppleton, walk through Court, and walk through Torrey. Very, very different architecture, very different feel. And unfortunately, there are properties that are being built they're built very nicely, they look very good, but they have absolutely zero bearing with the context of the neighborhood, and that's something that sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah. It's an excellent distinction. You're essentially fully built out. You have a very established character, that being different character in different areas. R1 is not just R1 everywhere. It's very different, right? So our job is to put zoning in place that helps, again, set the table for investment to occur over time that reinforces that character. We're not looking to undo it or make grave change. In some communities that have large areas of growth or large undeveloped areas, the zoning helps define the character that's going to emerge in an area. You have established character, so we're not looking to reinvent that. And we're fully aware that there's value in the different characters that collectively make up Birmingham and the different places and the uniqueness of those. Our charge is to strengthen those, not deteriorate them or homogenize them. So,
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bloom?
David Bloom, I came back up to the microphone for 2 points of clarification based on your comments, Mr. Mayor. The first is regarding non-conforming lots. I'm not suggesting that a firm come in and start measuring houses and sidewalks and everything else. I'm more looking at the size of the lot and how many square feet it is versus compared to how large the lot is supposed to be an R1, R2, R3, or R4. In the neighborhood where I live, I found several non-conforming lots and have brought that size-wise and have already brought that to the community development's attention. The second is regard to the sidewalk width issue that I brought up. I'm not suggesting that a firm come in and start zooming in on properties from up above with drones and things and start measuring things and looking if something is non-conforming. What I'm concerned about is new construction when houses are coming in, and when a developer or a homeowner is designing that the lot coverage is being calculated correctly, and then when the construction's finished, when the city staff comes out, that it's measured correctly. It's not for going back and trying to redo things. It's to make sure that when we do things in the future, it's done correctly.
Thank you. I appreciate your clarification, and I think you got that.
yeah, and that's exactly why we do it, is if all the lots in the district are supposed to say be 10,000 square feet, and as a result of that 10,000 square foot minimum lot dimensions, they have certain setbacks and lot coverage requirements. But let's say one block, they're all 6,000 square foot lots, but they're in a 10,000 square foot district. Do they have a hard time meeting the setback and lot coverage as if it was a 10,000 square foot lot? So maybe there's a disproportionate amount over time of variances that have to be sought on that block because they're substandard but legally non-conforming or grandfathered in parcels. So we try to look at that to set the table for better relief that may be needed going forward, but still allow private property investment for an addition or a new home in keeping proportionally with the size of that lot that may be substandard. So that's exactly why we look at it. Yeah.
Motion?
Yes. I would like to make a motion adopting a resolution to approve an agreement with Housel Levine for the purposes of performing a comprehensive zoning ordinance update for the city in accordance with the specifications contained within Housel Levine's response to the city's request for proposal in an amount not to exceed $199,855 from account 101.701.000-811.000, in addition to authorize the mayor and the city clerk to sign the agreement on behalf of the city.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Host,
Yes.
Mayor Ballard,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Long,
Yes.
Commissioner Haig,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is gonna be fun.
Congratulations. We're
Thanks
looking
for-
forward to it. All right. We
Mr.
move
Mayor.
to,
Normally, when we do a resolution, don't we have commissioner comments after that on the motion?
And public.
I just mentioned
And
it.
public comment on the motion as well.
what I'm trying to do is have comments at one, I'd like to either have the motion on the table and then get all the comments out there, or get all the comments and then make the motion and not have comments everywhere. So that's my hope for how we can streamline this. Was there a comment that you wanted to make on the
No.
motion? Okay. I apologize if anyone is unclear on that, and I will try to be more clear about, but, tonight, we didn't have a motion right up. We had a lot of comments, so let's make the motion and vote, and that's my theory. Maybe on the next one, I think the next one will go very similarly. We have a resolution to approve an agreement with Plant Moran Real Point for professional owners rep to explore public-private partnership opportunities. That's sufficient to introduce it. I see that Assistant City Manager Clements is before us.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time tonight. As you know, on this project, this is what we commonly refer to as going to be our shark, that our owner's representative, or professional owner's representative, to represent or work with the city with these public-private partnership opportunities that may come before you. The city issued the RFP that was approved by the commission, and we received a robust response. We got 11 responses. An internal staff committee was formed with members from the BSD, planning, building, and city manager's office to go through all 11 of those responses. And we evaluated those, and the consensus by the committee was that Plant Moran was by far the leader in the clubhouse, for lack of a better term. The city then met in an in-person meeting with the team from Plant Moran here at City Hall, where we quizzed them on their proposal, we quizzed them on their experience, we talked to them about buildings and everything, and we were very comfortable with the responses that we got, and in sum total with our experience that we've had with Plant Moran as a city in the past with projects, and in looking at their experience and checking their references, I found nothing but good things about Plant Moran Real Point, and I feel very comfortable recommending them to the commission tonight. So tonight, I have Mr. Doug Smith and his team. There he is right there. And I will turn it over to Doug for a brief presentation about the Plant Moran Real Point team.
No. Okay, I'll make it with you. Thanks, Mark. Yep, appreciate it. Good evening, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity and the vote of support from Mark regarding this project. We are ecstatic to be here in front of you to have this opportunity. I'm going to introduce our team, talk a little bit about Plant Moran and why we think our experience will be highly effective in helping you through this process. Then I'm going to spend a little time talking about the process as we envision it, making sure you understand where you're going to be involved in the process as we've adapted it, and then open it up for questions as quickly as possible. So our team, who is partially here, but I'll say we got the A team this evening, includes myself. Obviously, I'll be the project lead for this. My background in brief is real estate investment sales, real estate underwriting, and then private development for 20 years. Much of my private development work was done here in the state of Michigan, and in the last 6 or 7 years, I worked nationally working on public-private partnerships. Joined Plant Moran about 8 years ago. Also with me tonight is Tori Mannix. Tori runs our consulting practice. She's been largely responsible for building the practice out, putting process and procedures in place, putting in rigorous feasibility testing models so that we can help our clients make good decisions about their real estate. I'm also with Andy Fountain tonight. Andy runs our government sector. He helps government clients who have infrastructure, civic buildings that potentially need rejuvenation, redevelopment. He walks them through that process and oversees that process for them. Last but not least, Todd is sitting in the back row. Todd came from us from Royal Oak, where he served as assistant city manager, interim city manager for a period of time, but has a long history in government within the state of Michigan as an economic development director as well. Some of the projects that these folks are working on, I'll just mention, and many of them are very germane. Todd's involved in Warren right now, who's undergoing a potential public-private partnership process. Tori's involved with a couple major institutions in town here that are working together for a public-private partnership as well. And so we think we've got not only recent experience germane to what you're going to be looking at, we've also got some examples of past projects that we worked with that I'll share as well. Anything to add, guys? Great. Everyone's familiar with Plant Moran, the accounting firm. Plant Moran Real Point, which is the real estate practice arm of Plant Moran, was formed about 30 years ago. In brief, our clients needed help making real estate decisions, and the partners at Plant Moran recognized that. So our objective really is to level the playing field with the development community. So if someone approaches you regarding a development idea, or you have a particular piece of real estate that you want to use for mission, for example, or to leverage for economic development, our team's objective is to level the playing field and help you make those decisions. We have brokers in-house, architects, engineers, people like myself that have worked in a development community, and financial analysts. So we put you at eye level with the development community. That is really our objective as Plant Moran Real Point. Mark, you can advance the next slide. So here's the approach, methodology, and timeline. Mark and Jenna did a really good job kind of, I think, articulating what they wanted to accomplish. And we looked at that and said, okay, we think we can accomplish that. There are really 5 steps that we foresee in this process pursuant to what they outlined. And I'll walk through each one of these. Each of these are independent. The first step really is project management and mission. So in this very first step, we're going to set up what the evaluation metrics are for the next steps. So that step will be kind of standalone. We'll have that in place. And then if you are approached regarding a potential P3, then we would actually launch into the process. So this first step is kind of standalone. In this first step, we'll understand roles, responsibilities, put a communication plan together with your team, and then begin to establish what the evaluation criteria are for a P3. This will be largely based upon the city's values. We'll apply benchmarks to those, establish priorities, and then put together a 2-step evaluation process, which we've outlined here as step 2 and step 3. Step 2 is really a measured initial evaluation. Call it a quick litmus test. We'll define specifically what the parameters are, but we will look most specifically at legal, financial, market, and physical constraints for the project that was proposed, and opine on what we see as potential constraints and opportunities related to that. All of these things are going to be measured against your goals and objectives. Obviously, that's the point of this. What is in this for the city of Birmingham? So that first step will be what I envision, and we'll sit down with your team and work through this, but it'll be a measured review. We'll come to you with our thoughts and analysis of the specific proposal that was made, and point out to you where we think there are potentially problems and potentially relevant answers and solutions. If we come to you and you say, hey, we like this, explore it further, then we'll go on to step 3. Step 3 will involve basically the same process, just a much deeper dive. As I've named it here, this is more of a deep dive evaluation. We'll start looking at pro formas, modeling, understanding what the impact will be on the city potentially from an economic perspective. What variances are they asking for? What economic commitment from you might they be looking for? What legal ramifications might exist? Do they want to modify the zoning? Do they want to increase height? Do they want to buy the property? Do they want to ground lease the property? So these types of things will be weighed heavily here and analyzed rigorously through our models. If we pull this together, we'll come to you, provide the evaluation after analysis, and if you're interested in moving forward, we'll move to step 4, which would be the process by which we pull together a development agreement. It says partner selection. If there are several people vying, obviously there would be a process by which we vetted those different partners. But in this particular step, the objective is to actually put in writing what a development agreement would look like. Once we are through that process, we would then come to you again for the full evaluation and for your recommendation to move forward before we headed to implementation of the project. So that's real high-level overview of kind of the process. Again, I think what's most important here is that we've underlined all these steps with alignment with city goals and objectives. There's always going to be that return back to what are the city's goals and objectives. Last page. I think it's just questions. Ran through that quickly, but love to.
That was good.
Have questions?
High level.
Oh, yeah.
Questions? Fire away.
All right. I'm going to be pedantic, but you're talking about contract law, so pedantic's probably a good thing, right?
Yes.
So I got a question for you. In Kalamazoo, did you raise a building? Because your writing says you raised it, R-A-I-S-E, but I believe you R-A-Z-E the building. Dictionary says they're opposite directions, and that makes a really big difference in a contract. So don't rely on spell check, please, because you can get the wrong meaning out of it, and then that lady there will get really mad when the contract goes wrong. Just an observation. Next one.
Thank you.
I don't read details or anything.
I love it, and we actually appreciate it. We're
It's a good thing we're not attorneys.
very detailed.
I'm an engineer. So, scope of services, attachment B. Now, I know this looks like this is a markup, which honestly, I was a little surprised it looks like it's in markup format, because, I mean, the last 3 lines have errors in them. But in scope of services, you appear to have taken the rather outstanding expertise of your group and looked at this through a lens. But I don't find the words real estate anywhere in scope of services as a constraint. I checked it 3 times, I did a word search. Those words don't exist in the scope of services. So why have you only shown us something for real estate development? And I'll give you the example. So that gentleman over there that's been sitting here patiently brought up about our swimming pool that we're going to mothball or close very shortly. I've actually found an I wanted to bring this up later, so I'm going to use this as an example. I found an organization who are interested in talking to us about running the swimming pool, but they have zero interest in investing money, building out, changing zoning, doing anything with the building, operating it for them and for us in a partnership, which would be a public-private partnership, as an operating model without real estate. You don't address that anywhere. You've looked at it through your real estate lens. And I've got to admit, the first time I read this, I kind of read it and thought, this is pretty impressive. Where's the rest of it? Because I was thinking of that example. That's just one. We have others, such as it's been mentioned, inviting the YMCA back or asking the YMCA back to run programs of various types. They all need to be investigated for merit using the methodology you've described. It's good methodology. I've got 0 criticisms. My criticism is, I think you looked through a lens. And I don't know that you read that scope of services certainly the way I read it, because I didn't read real estate. I didn't read a constraint in here. But your presentation constrained to a particular scenario. Does that make sense to you?
I think what you're referring to is the possibility that a public-private partnership might involve operating partnership per se?
Exactly,
Related
yes.
to infrastructure or
That was the
somehow
example,
related-
is there is someone who, they asked me to actually bring it up later specifically today, but I use it as the example, that they have zero interest in investing, they have zero interest in building, they have zero interest in development, they have an interest in operating a city-owned facility. And so it would be an operating partnership without zoning changes, without real estate, without investment, without the things that you detailed that are probably maybe more common, but not exclusive to everything else. That's where I was asking about how would you apply from an operating partnership that doesn't involve a tangible property, it doesn't involve a development. Do you cover that? Have you covered that? Because I don't see the request only limiting it to, I like your parking deck, I want to build a restaurant on top of it. I see it as being, you city have assets and tangibles, we can operate them together, we can build them together, we can develop something together. But I saw a piece of the pie, not the whole pie. Did I clarify where I was coming from?
I think I understand what you're saying. Yes.
Okay.
Mary, did you want to ask a question?
Well, I've had conversations with the city manager similar to what you're saying, and I think the answer is they can do that. And I don't think...
They need to answer this for us, not you answer it for them. This is their presentation. They need to answer it and give us that assurance. Hence me asking
I'm
the
happy to
question.
have them answer it and say they can do that. I'm pretty sure they can do that.
I'm confident.
Okay.
But it was also like when I asked in the previous presentation, there are things that you want to actually verify. Trust but verify.
Okay. Can you verify that?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. A lot of where we start tends to be within the real estate asset, but you can't have a successful real estate asset without operating it accordingly. So to that end, there are some times where we are looking at an asset from both the real estate development partnership side, public-private side, and also just the operational side as well. So we can absolutely do both. I'm working on a couple of projects right now that are existing public assets that they didn't want to operate anymore and are repurposing through a new operator, mostly to get it off their balance sheet, their books, have someone else with experience come in and operate it, and receive basically an annuity income to do that. So we definitely do that. Apologies if it wasn't something that we highlighted specifically in our proposal.
Details.
The proposal got long, we didn't know you liked to read so much, or I would have put a lot more in there, I promise.
We appreciate it.
Engineer, software, former CEO.
Yeah.
Love it. Appreciate it.
Okay. Ceding the floor. Any other?
I'm done. I just wanted to bring those up.
Okay,
That was it.
good. No, that's
I
a very
have
good-
confidence.
It's a very good
just
point. It's a very good point. and
Details make and break.
It's a very good point, and I suspect that we will be asking you to engage on certain matters that are not as expansive as a huge development project. So,
Yeah. I have one question.
fire away.
Okay, so on your page 21 of your proposal, you lay out a whole bunch of areas. One is service partner selection, and you say deal facilitation. I couldn't find anything that really clarified what that meant. Does that mean going out and identifying prospects to partner with? Does it mean we got a partner that randomly came to us? Okay, here's an opportunity. We'll facilitate the negotiation. Just clarity on what deal facilitation means.
I think is what you're referring to up in that gray area at the top?
Yeah, it's item number 3.
So that's your scope, which I recognize, and then.
Okay, got it.
That's okay, but
missed
yes,
that top part.
We are through the development, what we call the development agreement process. We would assist you with deal facilitation, putting in writing what the terms and conditions of the deal are ultimately.
Okay. So it'd be our collective jobs to find the partners that we want to sit in that deal.
At this point in time, we've been asked just to respond. So understanding things are coming in. We're not going out into the marketplace. We're capable of doing that. We do that for clients all the time. But at this point, simply sit and wait pursuant to that until something comes in and react to it.
Okay.
I do think it is going to be up to us. The next steps here are up to us to sit down with the city manager and discuss the realm of possibility here, maybe with them coming along and facilitating or participating in that conversation. There's a lot a lot to talk about. Not time to talk about it tonight, not appropriate, but
Yeah.
we've got a laundry list
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
could start talking about, and it may involve you going out and finding people.
I think that first step that we outlined is absolutely critical.
Yeah.
To make sure we have alignment with you and we go out, what we're representing to the development community is indeed something that represents all of your interests clearly, so that there's clarity from their perspective. Political alignment is one of the most difficult and one of the most problematic things with regards to public-private partnerships. It's why most of them fail, ultimately. So that first step is key. We would really like to be involved. We think we can add a lot of value there.
Good. And Lord knows we need topics for workshops, don't we? Further comments on the commission, Commissioner?
Actually, yeah, further comment based off what you just said about the political alignment and failure. Do you have stats on failure rates of partnerships or failure rates of public-private partnerships, et cetera, just that we have an understanding of going into it? Do 25% succeed? Do 90% succeed? Is there anything that out there that can be used that we can use as a quantifiable to truly figure out where value is as well?
I don't have anything to put my fingers on, but I'll tell you political alignment, transparency, and then ultimately having someone on your team that can speak the same language that a developer does, which I think we can do, and I'm not patting ourselves on the back, but those are the three things that typically will trip the deals up. Like I mentioned, I work nationally. Public-private partnerships often are really under the radar screen. There's not a prominent person out there doing them on a regular basis. They're largely local. But if you're going into one as a developer, which I've had the experience of doing, political alignment is critical. You want to make sure that the city's team or the municipality's team has got people on board that really understand the operational terms and conditions, the real estate terms and conditions. Transparency is critical. You have to have a level playing field or they just never get off the ground. And they're very difficult to do. But I think, you've got a very unique city that eliminates some of the risk involved with the market, which is one of the challenges for public-private partnerships. And if we engage in this process the right way, I think we can develop a system by which these can be vetted and the true benefits can be weighed for the city and the development community.
Another one, not necessarily related actually, it just reoccurred to me. With a partnership, we're partnering with an entity, LLC, S-Corp, whatever it may be. Where can we try and get more assurance of fiscal reliability, fiscal stability? Because when a project fails, the principals of that project walk away and they can rinse and repeat because the law allows it. And concerns I have are that there are those that are terrific at sales and don't execute. And that's their MO. That's their whole life MO. Mm-hmm. And they will rinse and repeat and look, I've got this fabulous idea, this fabulous company. And then the problem is that they walk away and they can restart. But if we've sunk money into it, it's actually our personal money because we are the bank of the city. The taxpayers carry that can. And I've got a lot of concerns about that and how we can try and get more skin in the game from principals so that they actually own it. Don't want to go as far as one example that happened last year, which I won't go into details, but the guy over-leveraged himself, pledged everything he'd got, and it went really bad for him and his family. He took a very poor outcome for that, but then there are others that are, like I said, they rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
You're nodding. You know exactly what I'm getting at. We need that assurance because if something goes wrong, we're paying the price. We have to carry it, and then we have to go to political alignment. The 7 of us have to explain to the citizens of this city, by the way, we just blew X million dollars. We're going to have to raise your taxes because we've got to cover the costs.
Understood.
So how can we utilize your skills, your knowledge, to get that leverage and get that personal level of equity and not just a corporate level of equity in projects, because that's going to give someone a lot more incentive to succeed rather than just go, hey, I took my cut, I took my margin, I'm gone. I don't care.
Right.
I want someone who cares, who actually wants to try. We have some developers in this town that care. They try hard. And we need to keep that, or else I just see an awful lot of financial risk. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's the classic, developers are short-term, you guys are long-term. You're here forever, right? And the reconciliation, that's difficult. And the answer to it is they have to be financially underwritten very carefully. We have to understand what their bank financing looks like, how they've structured it, how much equity they have, what their debt services coverage are. And then contractually, and Andy can probably speak to this, when they sign a contract with an architect, sign a contract with a CM, we want to understand the terms and conditions of those as well to assure that it gets through the construction process properly. But I think we're well equipped to help you understand what's being proposed. Are they 50% invested in this? Is the LTV or the debt 50% of the value? Is it 75%? We can weigh all those things and work together towards where there's a level of comfort and try to understand the long-term risks for the city and how to mitigate those.
Okay.
I think we're well equipped to do that. I spent 5 years in the back room of a bank working out real estate loans in the early 90s, and it was not pleasant. But it enlightened me with regards to how many things can go wrong, and to this day, I walk around and sometimes I'm kind of doom and gloom with regards to projects because I'm always looking for, how they can break. And we do that for our clients. It's our job. So I think we can put some meat on these deals and hopefully make you comfortable or walk away from them.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Host.
Mr. Mayor, is there a conflict of interest that, Plant Moran does our auditing and our accounting?
We determined there wasn't from our perspective.
Well, I'm not concerned about your perspective.
I understand.
Punches above his weight.
I'm sorry I jumped.
I would defer to the city attorney on that.
Correct, and I believe that there is no conflict given the personnel involved.
Is there? Do you have a Chinese wall?
Are you different operating businesses under
Yes.
an umbrella? So you have different financial reporting structures, different P&L structures, and it's only tied at the top level?
Yeah, we abide by all independence regulations purposely. We don't want to be the ones that get our Plant Moran brother in trouble doing the audit as well. So something we go through very, very heavily internally before we even respond to a proposal like this as well.
Other commission questions? Anybody in the public? Anybody online? Use the raise your hand function if you're online. This is the last opportunity for comments. We're going to ask for a motion, and then we're going to vote on the motion. Motion?
I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution to approve a 3-year agreement with Plant Moran Real Point for professional owners representative to explore public-private partnership opportunities in an amount not to exceed the agreed-upon hourly rates. In addition, to authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement on behalf of the city. Funding for this project will be expensed in other contractual services accounts as dictated by the project proposed and upon approval of the budget amendment by the city commission.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Long?
Yes.
Commissioner Kolb?
Yes.
Mayor Ballard?
Yes.
Commissioner Host?
Yes.
Commissioner Kwasowski?
Yes.
Commissioner Haig?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you all. Greatly appreciate your comments.
I am very excited about this. It's something I've wanted for a long time, and I know the rest of the commission, I think I speak for them. We are excited also. This is exactly the kind of expertise we have lacked and that we most need. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Look forward to working with you. Especially you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
I'm not always that pedantic, but sometimes.
I love it. It's important.
We move on to a resolution to consider adopting the city's first historic preservation master plan. we have Planning Director Nicholas Dupuy before us.
I really know how to clear out a room. Like every time. I keep telling myself it's not me, but we'll see. All right, so thank you. Of course, I'm here again with the Historic Preservation Master Plan, the city's first at this point. It's a document that's been in the making for quite some time now. In earnest, we started in 2023. We took a brief pause to develop the Birmingham Green Healthy Climate Plan, also an important endeavor. Now we're back here bringing you what we feel is another homegrown, high-quality document that the planning board, or excuse me, the planning department created to showcase what we would consider a pretty niche area of urban planning generally, and which is often overlooked and sometimes underserved. A quick primer.
Very quick, keeping in mind that we had a workshop just how many weeks ago?
Oh, yeah. 5, maybe? Trust me.
December 1st?
I rehearsed this.
It's relatively fresh in all of our minds.
Yes. We had lots of checkpoints at the Historic District Commission, of course. We had a workshop here. I wanted to take this point to clarify. In your report, I claim that on January 7th, the Historic District Commission met. Timing, when commission reports come out, it was inopportune. We did not have a quorum. I was able to hold a special meeting tonight at 5 o'clock. My members were all here, and I did secure that motion that I promised was in your report just a few days later than expected. So I do have a formal recommendation from the Historic District Commission as stated in your report verbatim. A couple of them are here tonight as well to support the plan. I noted also that there was a public comment period. A few comments on that. Actually, just one comment on that. All I got was one. Not quite unusual. As I mentioned, it's a niche field in urban planning. We made attempts, though, trust me. 2 newsletters, social media, sent the plan to the museum and the Michigan State Historic Preservation Office. All 7 members of the HDSC, of course, all the HDC. We even contacted the Birmingham Eagle to run an article. They haven't quite run it yet. The timing was just off. They will be running one, hopefully, though, to sort of kick off the adoption should it happen. We also passed along through personal networks. So we did make attempts, and I think there's a lot of things competing for people's interest these days. And what I wanted to make sure to highlight is that this was just this opportunity. There's a whole section of our plan dedicated to public engagement, education, and information sharing. It's an open door throughout the duration of this plan and beyond. So if you missed this opportunity now, just know, for the public and for you all, the entirety of this plan will be public engagement based. So there will be more opportunities. So today, and for the plan itself, you've seen it before. Again, credit where credit's due. I know you've read it. I wanted to focus on some of the changes that I made so that you can understand what happened from now until today, from December to today. It's a simple document, admittedly. It's what we wanted to focus on is kind of balancing the text, photos, graphics, and some separate call-out boxes to try and allow a reader or a user to choose their own adventure, if you will. If they wanted to, they could just stick to the main text, get a sense for the major themes, or just go through a couple of sections and still pull out those themes. We didn't want to create some 200-page master plan, unapproachable, hard to, unpalatable. So what we did is put it in 2 different formats. We've got this digital reader, same reader as our newsletters in the Birmingham Green Master Plan, Healthy Climate Plan. It's also in PDF form, of course, hopefully just to, magic, right? Just to accommodate all sorts of preferences. Both versions, though, have the same functionality. Anything that clicks and links in the digital reader clicks and links in the PDF. This plan is split into 8 parts, most of which are pretty self-explanatory. I've got an executive summary that outlines all of the plan's vision and goals. I've got all sorts of things that link to outside documents, such as this section here. The executive summary also outlines a summary of key actions where I pull out from all those pages of the action plan, all the high-level stuff, what the plan is, when we're expecting to do it, and whether it's regulatory or non-regulatory. In the introduction, I provide context, histories, relationships with organizations, but also other Birmingham plans. We move on to the data and mapping. We give, again, just kind of a list of our resources. We do a little GIS analysis. We also provide a summary of the public engagement up to this point. 2 particular things that really excited us: 94% of respondents found historic preservation to be a worthwhile goal in the city. while 63% of respondents felt like we should be expanding our stock of historic resources. That kind of lit a fire under us and set the whole premise for the plan. Moving on, we've got a section on...
Controlling this?
It's me. There's a section that provides for a description of any sort of historic designation that you can achieve in the city.
Nick, how are you doing this?
It's a screen record.
It's a video.
Yeah, so I rehearsed this a little.
Okay.
You're interrupting his flow. Let him go.
You better catch up now.
Because you guys asked me
We're mindful.
Yeah, no, it's an important section because there's all sorts of designations you can achieve, some protective, some recognition-based. The action plan, as I mentioned to you before in December, this is our game plan. It's where we provide all 31 recommendations and the details associated with it. Each, some are big, some are small. Some of the changes we made, starting here, in the resources section in the introduction, it was mentioned at the workshop that, of course, staff time is a resource. It should be mentioned. I took the opportunity here to kind of paint a broad brush over the whole action plan as opposed to adding into every little action itself, acknowledging that, yes, there is a cost to city staff time. Goal number 1, more broadly, it's a sort of getting the city back to what it should be doing in a sense. It's mostly focused on administrative type facets of historic preservation. It also tries to recognize that the review of our existing resources so we may support them a little bit better. Moving on to goal number 2, all about transitioning the city from a reactive approach to a proactive approach. A specific change that I'll highlight based on the workshop, one of y'all mentioned, hey, this reads currently as we're going to force the designation of all the Wallace Frost homes. I added some clarification language in there that our intent is to make it a voluntary designation and that we'd be working with the owners of Wallace Frost homes the entire time. To restate, we're not a forcible designation type city. Moving on, in PRO 11, the Heritage Home Program, I moved that up to year 1, as you suggested. One of the ones I wanted to highlight is PRO 13, that we're calling our 40 by 40 program. It's one of our big swings where we propose to add 40 more buildings to our stock of historic resources by the year 2040. A little bit of context, though, and perspective, 40 historic properties is only 5% of the homes currently 100 years or older, and 0.5% of the overall number of buildings in the city. 40 is a big number, but not big in the full scale of the city. I think it's catchy, it's marketable, it's a really cool tactic that I think can encourage property owners who may already be thinking about it to perhaps take the lead. Of course, alongside all of this other stuff. So last but not least, goal number 3 is all about informing and engaging with the public to create that environment that eventually, hopefully, becomes self-sufficient and helps unify the public opinion towards historic preservation. Actions like INF2, where we provide Preservation Month programming, build on previous successes, while actions like INF8, where we propose to provide technical service on Michigan's historic tax credit, are new approaches. So it's a mixture of old and new, regulatory and non-regulatory. In closing, I want you to know that I know that this challenge won't come without discomfort. I know that there are several key points in here that I'm going to get a lot of questions on, and I'm prepared. But it is often said that the comfort zone is a beautiful space, but that nothing really grows there. So this plan, I'm hoping, asks that we question the easy and familiar together, try to find some new skills and some new opportunities in historic preservation. We should do this because Birmingham's historic buildings are a finite resource, and once they're gone, they're gone. So thank you again for giving me the time and the space to do this, and of course, I'm open to questions as always.
Thank you very, very much. Excellent presentation. Good work on the plan.
Thank you.
Commissioner Host.
Nick, obviously, I've made it clear that I really like what you've done here.
Thank you.
Is it possible, Mr. Mayor, that we have the committee members that are here to tell us about what they think of it?
I don't know if they want to. I think they would be welcome to comment at some point. I think that's a good idea, but right now, let's get your comments out on the table, and any other commissioners.
This is a step in the right direction. Thank you, Nick.
Second.
Yes.
So, once again, I think a lot of this stuff is really great. I think you guys have pulled together a huge amount of really interesting information, and obviously have used a lot of different historic resources to see what other standards are around the country. So, unfortunately, I'm going to use my time to be critical in order to try to save everybody's time. So, at the workshop, I thought myself and several other commissioners brought up some concerns with the demolition delay verbiage that perhaps, and I know that you had also mentioned during that workshop that you were hoping to use more carrots than sticks. But this to me feels like the biggest stick, and I wonder if it's too big. I feel like, as you had mentioned before, what we really want is voluntary designation. We want homeowners to want to designate their property as a historic home, and I feel like that's not really within the spirit of the demolition delay ordinance. Obviously, there's no point in having a demolition delay ordinance. If you don't want to demolish your home, you just don't do it, right? The whole point is that this would be something where the city would compel someone to not do something to their property that they had desired to do. So I think I would be more comfortable if, and like we had discussed, there's lots of different ways to do that, and I think we kind of said, well, maybe we can just hammer out the details later, but I think I would be a lot more comfortable with Pro 8 reading consider a demolition delay ordinance rather than adopt. And then secondly, this is something that I had brought up at the workshop as well. I'm a little bit, I don't think I'm comfortable with some of the language in the conclusion around, as a general rule, every old building is special, complete with its own identity and its own distinctive character, its own experiences, its own personality. In Birmingham, that comes in many different shapes, sizes, materials, craftsmanship, and decorative details. What is worth preserving? Why is it important? This plan submits that every building deserves a chance to be considered for its historical value, no matter its age, prominence, or disposition. I just get the feeling that the idea that every building should be considered for its historic value, regardless of its age, prominence, or disposition, is probably not what the average citizen in Birmingham thinks of when they think of historic preservation. I think that they have in their mind homes where something significant happened, where somebody significant lived, or maybe they passed some special age threshold. And so that is something where I feel like, particularly in combination with the demolition delay ordinance, we are sort of, when somebody's trying to gather marshal information about, well, is this house considered historic? And they look at this plan and they say, oh, well, it turns out the city believes that basically any building can be considered historic. I don't think that that's really what reflects, like I said, how most people in the city feel about historic preservation. And I wouldn't want this plan to I wouldn't want to maybe get somebody's hopes up that, oh, well, I'll be able to get this property preserved because they'll preserve anything. And so I think that we could alter this, and I don't have something off the top of my head, in a way that I think would provide more clarity about what are we really looking for here. We want to preserve things like you said about the Wallace Frost homes, something that we have reason to believe, now this is a really special resource and we really don't want to lose this, as opposed to saying, well, who knows, anything could be historic. And I don't mean, that's of course. Right. We don't want to go too broad, and then when people come before us, we say, well, we didn't really mean it quite like that. I'd rather this plan be a little bit clearer about what kinds of buildings we really care about preserving, and then working harder to preserve those.
Question, if we could iron out those two items tonight to your satisfaction, would
Yeah, I think those are the two things that I think would be holding me back from approving this plan.
Okay. Commissioner, Temporary Mayor Pro Tem Long.
Thank you. Again, congratulations, Nick, and to the commission for the amount of work that you did on this plan. I also agree that it's a step in the right direction, but I want to draw a point about that this is a plan in the same way the 2040 plan is a plan. The approval of this plan that happened tonight does not in and of itself obligate people to do things or give the city additional permissions to impose regulations or rules. And I additionally remain concerned about the demolition delay ordinance because we raised a lot of questions about that during the workshop. And I think we're asking for some clarity about what the city had in mind. I understand, or you can clarify that the next step would be to go back to the Historic District Commission and say, okay, let's start, or the planning and building, to come up with proposed ordinance language, which would then come to the commission for input, and more importantly, to the public for input. But I remain concerned about the just leaving it kind of wide open in approving this plan. I also remain concerned about, what Pro 9 means. We talked about that also at the workshop, incorporating historic preservation into all aspects of, principles, processes, policy, facilities planning, and programs at all levels. I still don't understand what that means exactly, and I think it's overly broad in the same way that Commissioner Kozlowski had concerns about the statement about everything is potentially historic. I'm concerned about imposing layers of regulation on or delay on every action the city takes, every proposal that it reviews, every budget that's approved. I'm concerned about the broadness of that language. I also am concerned about B2B8, which we also talked about at the workshop. Increase and regularize enforcement of maintenance requirements to ensure that historic materials are not lost to neglect, because we are talking about private properties owned by individuals. So again, approving this plan tonight means what regarding B2B8? And we talked about at the workshop, is that going to require an ordinance? It doesn't say that it would. Is that going to, is there going to be a new regulatory structure? Are there going to be fines? What do we do for people who can't afford to replace things to historic standards? I'm concerned that there could be a backlash, that people would just say, I don't want to go down that path. It's safer to, redo this now so that can no longer be historic. And so, unintended consequences. And again, concerned about whether approving this plan imposes unreasonable burdens and regulations on our residents.
I would ask you the same question I asked Commissioner Kozlowski. Let me put a finer point on it. If, for example, it said we should consider a demolition delay ordinance rather than we should adopt one, if it said we should consider some of these things rather than saying we should adopt them, would that allay your concerns? I think it's important to move this thing forward. Now, if it requires him to go back and do some revisions and come back to us yet again, I'm okay with that. If we can get to a point tonight that satisfies the concerns that you have by just changing a few words or adding a few words, then, I would also, that would move it forward that much more quickly.
I would like to perhaps let Mr. Dupuy respond.
Sure.
I'd love to, because I think I actually have some good answers to some of these concerns. All valid concerns. And as a pretext, what I'm not saying is that I'm unwilling to work with you on some of this language. For example, if it's a consider instead of adopt, consider it done. There are things, I guess in reverse order from Commissioner Kozlowski. I think it's important to know why the demolition delay is in there in the first place. Two reasons. One is a data point. We know that about 770 buildings have been demolished since 2015 in the city of Birmingham. That's about 77 a year. So in one example, there are only about 740 buildings over 100 years old left in the city of Birmingham. Back to the theme about finite resources. 76 of those buildings are already protected and designated historic. Subtract those, you're at about 660. At the rate we're going in this scenario I'm building where only 100-year-old homes are targeted, which they often are, in less than 9 years, we will lose every house we have left that's over 100 years old. was a startling data point to us and something worth considering. To build upon that, it's all we hear in our circles of historic preservation. When we talk to people, both historic property owners and just, forgive the term, regular members of the public, all they want to talk about is stopping the demolitions. Now, I'm not suggesting to you that I'm going to walk in here with a demolition delay, pull some big red lever, and bring the demolitions to a halt. Not at all. That's sort of an impossible task. I guess what this was intended to be was just to consider another tool to address the concerns of the public. So I guess, in other words, to say, it wasn't really our idea to sort of remedy the demolition situation. We happen to find that demolition delay is a tool elsewhere, but it's the public that brought that to us. So second, in terms of the language in the conclusion, I would, I guess, suggest that it is a conclusion section, but the body text is actually supposed to be a call to action. So we did mean it to be a little strong. So, along the theme here, tame it back a little bit, no problem at all. But what I want to at least relay to you guys is that I guess in any serious preservation circles in local or city government, that's what they do. They consider any resource. In the state of Michigan, that happens to be anything over 50 years old, anytime a project happens anywhere. For example, Section 106 review is something we do all the time. If we're spending federal money, we're required by the National Historic Preservation Act to a review of any resource that's either currently on the National Register of Historic Places or any resource that's eligible to be on the National Register of Historic Places. So we did a streetlight project recently where we're using federal money. I did build a buffer out around every streetlight, analyze each building that came across that buffer. Everything over 50 years old, I had to collate, assess, and provide them with details on the scale of the effect of a LED, or excuse me, a sodium or whatever other bulb to LED conversion. It's that extreme, and that's that's a mandatory thing from the National Historic Preservation Act. So when I say serious preservationists do this anyways, that's what I mean. So, again, I can tweak the language to be a little less strong. Not a problem at all.
Can I ask a point of clarification?
Yes.
So in your answer, you just referred to requirements for buildings over 50 years old and review of buildings over 50 years old. But the language does not say every building over 50 years old in your call. It says every building.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. And I think we can shift pivot a little bit and suggest that there's many important buildings here. I don't have to say exactly how many, although I do know that there's about 5,400 buildings in Birmingham that are over 50 years old. So do I want to be reviewing 5,400 buildings every time they do any work? The answer is no. So I get the theme that you're trying to get across here, and I think, like I said, I'm willing to make that section read a little bit better for someone who's not into historic preservation that may not understand the same things that I am. After all, this plan is supposed to be for, as I mentioned, simple and for the public. And then the last point, Teresa, about B2B 8, increasing and regularizing enforcement and maintenance requirements. I would say, of course, that's the main feedback we got from the historic property owner roundtables, is that it's gosh darn expensive to maintain a historic home. It only gets more expensive when you delay and delay and delay maintenance. What we're suggesting here, it is technically a stick because it's enforcement. I don't mean to sound so rudimentary, but help them help themselves by visiting these sites more often. Notice a peeling paint or a falling slate roof tile, bring it to their attention and try to resolve it together before it becomes a larger issue. Those maintenance requirements are already in our code. There's already code language in chapter 127 that requires the owners of historic properties to maintain their properties to a workmanlike condition. So it's something that we already have, and that's why it's in the back to basics section. Frankly, it's something we should have already been doing. So that's what I meant by that. Forgive me.
Pro 9.
Yes, about incorporating preservation values, principles, and processes. This is the one I don't think I have a good answer for you now. aside from, I'm happy to revisit it and be a little bit more specific. I think my intent, frankly, was to focus on City Hall and the library. We generally feel pretty disconnected from our facility staff that maintains these buildings and makes changes to these buildings. Or, I mean, he's not here, so it's fine, right? Scott Gree, when he's doing all the camera work around here, we were noticing that they were drilling their holes right into the brick. Generally speaking, not a great idea to do on a historic building. Try to focus on the mortar. So when I say values, principles, and processes, even something as simple as installing security cameras around City Hall, onto the exterior building, I want people in here to start thinking about things like that. Hey, it's a historic building, maybe I should not talk to Nick, but consider the consequences of what I'm doing here. So if I can make that more clear, I'd be happy to.
That seems like something the city manager could require happens in interdepartmental review. My concern is, again, the language that says all programs at all levels of municipal activity. Somebody could say, well, you know, what's the historic influences on junior golf? I mean, the way it's written, it's everything. And I think that is perhaps unnecessarily onerous and potentially burdensome. And so just, again, clarity about what people can expect and what you really are trying to do, I think would be better, you know?
Yeah, I'm happy to hone in a little bit on that. Okay.
I don't think you want to make these changes tonight, and, I mean, you probably want to come back, right?
It's completely up to you. I would say...
It's a matter of trust, then. Do you want them to make these changes and come back, or do you want to trust them to make the changes?
I got a couple of questions as well that may help answer towards that. Or questions or observations. So I'll preface whatever I'm going to say with, I grew up in a house that was built right around the same time the Constitution was written, like within 2 or 3 years of that. It was in the 1770s. In England. In England, they have different types of historical preservation classifications. Grade 1, 2, 3. It's a grade 2 listed house. That sets requirements as to the type of work you can do, and kind of what Commissioner Long's getting at, and they are expensive. So my parents saved up for an extremely long time because they wanted to extend the house. The example I'll give you is the architecture in the part of Kent that I grew up in has a red clay tile roof. It was local to the area. Nobody makes it anymore. Hasn't been made for 40 years. They had to import tile from the Czech Republic because it was the only place that made something similar. And you can imagine what the cost is of bringing something 1,000 miles from a different country. So, to Commissioner Long's point about some of these costs can get very burdensome is very accurate. It is a choice of love rather than a choice of, hey, I'm investing in my home because I'll get more out of it at the end of it. You probably won't with a historic home. So, to level set, I come from an environment where that is a mindset which is wanted. Just about everything I grew up around was old. I mean, the cathedral I went to has been there for 1,000 years. So, you know, stuff's old. It's been renovated. It's been looked after. Defining old and do we have to assess everything? I agree with the concept of assessing, but some assessments can take you 3 or 4 seconds. And the example I'll give is there was a neighbor's house in my street that was older. It must have been 70-odd years old. When she passed away, the sons decided they needed to sell the property. Quite frankly, it was a 3-second evaluation of that place needs to be bulldozed because there's nothing worth saving on it at all. It was old, but it was not worth it. If I go 1 street over, there is a different house that is actually maybe 10, 15 years older that has some of the most fantastic brickwork that I've seen in this city with all sorts of different ways of building the brickwork, that is absolutely worth saving. So I agree with the concept of evaluation, but I don't think it needs to be burdensome. Some of it's intuitive, some of it isn't. Also, the demolition delay, it's an ordinance. Everybody can get around an ordinance. We all know that. There's tricks and games everybody can play. You just sign up for a demolition much earlier than you were intending to, get it delayed, and then it hits your project timing anyway. I mean, that's how you get around stuff. It is what it is. I'm not saying anything nobody could figure out. So what I'm listening to with the conversation here, and again, I preface it with I grew up in a very old house that we still own. Actually, I'm part owner of it, or 2 houses. And so I am very interested, and I would say personally invested in historical preservation. And I believe in what's been written in here. I think it's really, really good stuff. But with some of the modifications, to your point, I think perhaps trying to modify on the fly tonight may not be the best thing. I do wish to see this proceed, but I think if we have a few tweaks to the concerns that have been expressed, and then it comes back, it's not a trust but verify. It is a let's get it right. Let's make sure that they're not on the fly, because there's been so much energy, so much time. I mean, look at this. This is not a 5-minute task. So let's take another week, 2 weeks, and tweak it. I mean, I see you ladies sitting at the back, and I see at least one of you, you're nodding. Sorry, I couldn't see the third one. But I see one of you nodding that if we're going to do it right. And if there's tweaks, let's make tweaks, because we don't have to hurry. I mean, we're already talking about something that's old. What's another 2 weeks for a 70-year-old building type thing? You know, it's a blink in time type comparison. But I want to do it right, and I want to respect the work that's been done, and the observations about where we can see this may be imposing a burden, because having been on the receiving end of it from my family, that it can get really expensive. I mean, when we need to make a modification to the house, we have to go and get special lime plaster made because we're not allowed to use drywall mud. There's only a few people can make that stuff anymore, and then there's even less craftsmen can put it up. So the cost is like 4 times the amount if you want to plaster a wall compared to drywalling it. It's nuts.
Commissioner, are you
my point
suggesting
being, we delay to do it right.
Commissioner Host, do you agree with that?
Yes, I do, but I want to make one comment. Sure. Nick pointed out that we demolished 77 homes a year since 2016. Well, I did a study that was 2010 to 2020, and it was over 1,000. Namely, it was equivalent to at least 100 homes each year.
You're good with holding off on it, I assume?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's probably the right call.
Okay, so no action, we will take no action. Would any of you guys like to address us on this? Speak now.
You sure you're good?
Okay.
And we're supportive of.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Well, we're glad you showed up to.
Comments are accurate.
Okay, good. Well, we're glad you showed up to support him. So good. So we will just move along to the next item.
I'm disappointed.
If you want to
come on up.
Come and.
I'm disappointed.
Hold on.
In the delay. This.
Wait, hold on until you get to the microphone, please. Please identify yourself and.
Patricia Lang, Floyd Street. I'm disappointed because this city, has had many members over the years that have been commissioners and city managers and city planners, and no one has really done anything to protect and preserve this city, and has really fostered an attitude of demolition. So the reluctance to see this conversation focused on a reluctance to put a pause on, we've had 27 years of free demolitions, and you want to continue to delay. I can't understand that. That's the antithesis of what preservation means. If we don't put a pause on demolition, and you, all of you will have all the power to make decisions as anything comes up. You sit in the seat of power over everything. You have nothing to fear about this plan that Nick has put his heart and soul into. Because the bottom line is you're always going to be voting on these things. Nothing's going to happen without your consensus. And so I don't understand the continued fear and the worry about expenses and how much, because not every home is going to be, certified historic and have rigorous rules to follow that's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars for a roof, for example. It's not, I don't believe that's the intent that Nick has put into this plan, that every home is going to now be certified. Because there's a way to do things where you don't have to certify. It's called renovation. But you do it by maintaining the street frontage at least. So you have that, you preserving a neighborhood ambiance. It doesn't have to be, in quotes, certifiable. So I'm very disappointed in your decision to delay getting on board with what he's done. And I think it speaks volumes to where you stand. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we are 98% supportive of this, and I think that Nick intends to incorporate our concerns. I don't think there's a huge negativity here, and I'm sorry that you perceive that. Before we set it aside, is there any other comments? Commissioner Haig, did you want to say one more thing? You don't have to.
No, it's just, I understand your concern, Ms. Lang. I really do. And, I've been pretty vocal in the past about, I'm not a big fan of knocking things down just for the sake of knocking it down, because newer, bigger is not necessarily better in my world. But to sort of add on to what he said, I think tweaks to get it right, because there's a lot of work. There's a few things where we've got concerns where there could be some backlash. And yes, the program is voluntary. We can't force people to do it. We can ask them nicely, but it's up to them if they want to actually do it, as far as having their houses certified as historical homes. But I actually am not a fan of knock everything down and build something new. I don't like it. I'll say that on record right here for you as well. I'll repeat it. I don't like it. I don't think it's always the right answer. I actually do kind of like that renovate. And I mentioned earlier about in the 2040 plan, you were sitting there, where I said we wish to try and preserve the character of neighborhoods. The character of neighborhoods is defined by those properties as well as the layout of those property lines. And I mentioned specifically, if you walk around Poppleton, you go to different neighborhoods, you can see distinct characteristics of properties there. I wish to help preserve that as well. And if it takes a couple of tweaks and a couple of weeks to get that slightly better, I'm for that, because I think it will do the job better than it's already planning on doing it. That's just where my perspective is on why I wish to see a small delay, but there is no support for not interested. This isn't very interested, and just tweak it. That's all it is. So I'm sorry that you're disappointed in us. I genuinely am. I hope we can alleviate that very soon, and that you'll feel a lot more comfortable with where we're going to go. But I want to do it right. I don't want to just do it. I want to do it right.
Yeah. I would concur with Commissioner Haig's remarks. We just had a whole discussion about the need to redo the zoning plan to eliminate areas that are difficult to understand or confusing, or that the average person does not know what they're reading. And I think that it behooves us to, again, the last 2 to 3%, to make sure that our intentions and our language in this plan are absolutely clear and understandable and don't have any ambiguity or confusion before we approve it, since we have the opportunity to do that. And I do not think that a potentially 2-week delay to our next commission meeting is unwarranted.
Okie dokie. We good? I second all that, and I was actually eager to tell you that my wife and I intend to be one of the first homes to look into historic designation. We'll do that when we do finally approve it, but that's on tap. And I think we can get a ball rolling here, okay? We just got to get, I'm an editor. Just needs a little bit of editing, that's all. All right, let's move along. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nick. And your magic was much appreciated.
Can you explain how you do that, Nick? I mean, you had your hands.
It's a trade secret.
It's a screen record tool that that Microsoft has.
It just records.
Snipping tool.
No, there's another one.
I didn't use that one.
So I think he just made a video
He made a video.
of him
Videos
flipping
as well.
through the pages.
Right.
Yeah.
He didn't
And
actually.
then he played the video and then would pause it every once in a while when he was on a page he wanted to show us.
All right, we're on to
It looked
item.
like magic to me, too. I didn't know what was going on. But
It was magic.
it was magic. The amazing Dupuis.
Okay, we're on to item 8, new business, item D, commission items for future discussion. A motion is required to bring up the item for future discussion. The next reasonable agenda, no discussion on the topic, little discussion on the topic will happen tonight. Does anyone have an item for future discussion? Yes, Commissioner Haig.
Okay, so I talked about it earlier. Are we interested in engaging a conversation, starting a conversation with a third party who would be potentially interested in operating the swimming pool that is currently at 400 East Lincoln for the benefit of not only themselves but for the community? It'll be a business case. They have to actually be able to make money off a pool. But are we interested in trying to come up with a solution for the community that the community has asked about?
May I make a suggestion? That is not necessarily a topic for the city commission to address right now. I would suggest.
I don't know where to bring it up, so that's why
Bring
I
it to
brought
her. And introduce them to her. As I said earlier today, the plans for the basement where the pool is and upstairs, there are no plans for that right now. That is open to future discussion. And so yeah, I mean, I would say, if you have somebody, bring them on. Introduce them, let her vet them. And then if she wants to bring it to the commission, if it's legit, if it's credible, right, you would certainly bring. Is that acceptable?
It's fine by me.
Everything doesn't
For them,
have to
it's
happen
super
up
early
here.
stage. They haven't gone super deep in it, but they're the only party that I've encountered so far that said, yeah, you know what, let's talk.
Well, it's
because
good.
nobody else has even said, let's talk.
It's nice to know that, and it's nice to hear you say that in public, because maybe somebody else out there might say, hey, I'm willing to run the pool. And fine, if they're willing to run the pool and they can come up with a P&L that works for them and for us, right? Okay, so
Right, it's fine.
folks in TV land or Zoom land, if you're listening, any other items for future discussion? Hearing none. Commission discussion on items from a prior meeting?
Here.
Oh, wait, is this
Prior
for?
meeting.
Prior meeting.
This is where I'm coming through.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the board meet in closed session under Sections 8D and Section 8E of the Open Meetings Act to consult with our attorney regarding legal strategy in connection with the Birmingham Community House.
All right.
Well, first of all, what do we have to do here?
The city attorney does have something to mention about the format of the motion.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So Commissioner Host, the particular format of the motion that you just mentioned, when you reference litigation, it has to be very specific, and just referencing a topic, it doesn't work. I do have you need the case caption.
Okay, I do have the
I have it if you need it,
language,
too.
the actual language, if you want me to read it.
The point is that the Open Meetings Act is very clear what has to be discussed openly in public and what can go into closed session.
Right.
Here, give me a moment. I'll reread it. I'd like to make a motion to meet in closed section pursuant to MCL 15.268, Section 8, parentheses 1E of the Open Meetings Act to discuss pending litigation entitled the Community House Foundation Association, Birmingham, Michigan, Oakland County, Circuit/Business Court Case Number 2025-2192-18 CB Honorable Michael Warren, and to consider the purchase or lease of real property up to the time an option to purchase or lease that real property is obtained pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, MCL 15.268, closed session, permissible purposes, Section 8, parentheses 1D.
That is a legally sufficient motion. However, I do just want to point out in past practices that the city has tried to include this on the agenda except for emergent matters. So that's something that develops rather quickly or suddenly. Otherwise, we like to inform the public that the commission may be entering into a closed session ahead of time. So from my knowledge standpoint, I don't know of any emergent.
I do. What we know, I consider very urgent.
But there is also a requirement for a vote. And based on those two bases that you wish to seek a closed session, that will require a 2/3 vote. It's a supermajority. And that is of the voting of the entire commission. So that includes Mayor Pro Tem Anthony Long, as well as Commissioner Haig, who unfortunately is recused from this issue.
Therefore, it would require 5 votes, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
How is this
There's a motion on the table.
Before?
Excuse me?
Correct.
How has it inhibited us before? We've never been at full
Hold on.
staff.
There's a motion. You've made your motion, correct? Okay, the motion's on the table. Is there a second? I guess motion fails for lack of a second.
I was hoping for a second.
I'm sure you were.
But I didn't get one. Okay.
I'm sorry. Ms. Ecker, yes?
Yes, I just wanted to make one comment. You said that, why hasn't that hindered us before? I think you're trying to imply that we don't use the supermajority rule every time, but we do. That is the requirement to
When you
go
put
into
it
closed
on.
session.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
No.
you always have to have a supermajority for specific types of exemptions, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we have followed that rule in the past.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on. We have communications. Is that where we are? Yes. We have nothing from a prior meeting. We have communications. We've already gone over the YMCA and Next and the Community House. We have some communications regarding e-bikes, regarding ice and snow accumulation on Torrey streets, which I trust has been addressed. A communication regarding a moratorium on data centers, to which I would just say I don't believe we've ever had a request for a data center, nor would we be likely to, because they consume an enormous amount of space.
Be very careful. There's a data center less than a mile away from here.
Less than a mile
Yes,
in
there
Birmingham,
is.
in the city of Birmingham?
It's just outside of Birmingham. So be very careful what you say, because you're not speaking from a position, I've been inside it. That's how I know it's there.
Have we had
Well,
an
I think we have a
application
data
for
center in the
one?
middle of town. It's if you want to call the AT&T. or
AT&T
Michigan.
building? I was thinking that, the old version of the data center, yes. But no, have we had any in recent years applications for the type of data center that we're talking about now? No.
Well, Commissioner, if you'd like to get data centers on our agenda, that would have been.
It may be worth us talking about, because I don't think anybody, you wouldn't even recognize it for what it is from the outside.
Where
I will not say, because it's
It's a secret?
The owner didn't want to have it disclosed, but I was in it about 2 years ago.
Okay.
And they said they intentionally keep it low profile.
Okay, so
But
there are
their
data
energy
centers and there are
energy
data
consumption is high, and the requirements of their operations are intense. So
I don't
it
think we
doesn't have to be
feed
100
into the
acres.
city to get the power that a data center would need.
Not in the downtown area, that I can assure you.
Mr. Mayor, I will second the notion of talking about this.
There was no notion, nor
And it's not at the
no
right
notion, no motion. I'm looking at the request and what the concerns are, electricity use, traffic, property values, natural, I think
She's covered a lot of things in a blanket there.
Yeah.
I can tell you from what I've seen, there's an awful lot of energy use. The cooling requirements, it depends how you function them. The other thing that's rather interesting was the fire suppression requirements inside the building are extremely specialized. And would we then have the fire infrastructure locally to be able to support that? I couldn't answer that. I don't know if the fire chief would feel comfortable answering that without doing homework either. So there's an awful lot of requirements that people are not aware of. I didn't know until I was invited in the building briefly. And he explained it to us, and it was jaw-dropping.
Well, thank you. I don't even know how you define a data center, but I'm sitting in front of a data center right here. I guess. Reports, commissioner reports. We have notices of intention to appoint to the Ethics Board, the Parks and Recreation Board, and the Museum Board. Anyone in Zoom land interested should definitely apply. Commissioner comments. Any commissioner comments? Commissioner Host.
The previous commission determined last spring that we should have a roads/infrastructure workshop. Now, technically, in September, the first week of September, we had what we called an infrastructure workshop. And in reality, it was Oakland County telling us that if we wanted to increase the flow, let us know, and we'll raise your rates. Namely, the infrastructure that we were talking about 11 months ago for a workshop was our sewer and our water underground, as well as the roads. Okay, now in keeping with Mr. Mayor even said that we should have a workshop where we discuss things versus listen to PowerPoints, but we discuss roads and infrastructure. And I want to give two examples. In early June of last year, in Birmingham Farms, we hired a contractor to Cape Seal approximately 4 or 5 streets. They put the first 2 coats on in the second week in June, and they didn't seal it off until the second week in August. That meant that those 4 or 5 roads for almost 2 months had raw stone on them. And the best thing I can tell you is if you had a kid on a bicycle riding on that street and they fell, you would have to take them to emergency. That's how bad these roads were, left unsealed for almost 2 months. Which brings me to the current problem, which is we let a contract for West Wimbledon, and today I traversed with my dog the whole thing, and I can show you pictures. The best way to put it is it's a disaster. Today, it's a disaster. I could have taken videos showing the residents attempting to get to their houses. Nobody's going more than 3 miles an hour for fear that they'll get stuck. And when I say stuck, a lot of cars have been towed out. This job is nowhere near completion. The people on East Wimbledon are watching this and wondering, what are we going to do? Well, I have some things that we should talk about under roads and infrastructure, which is, I believe, the most important thing we have to discuss, period. The state always has a start date and a completion date on any contract, and if you finish early, you get extra incentive money. If you finish late, the penalties are horrific. I think we should put this into the contracts that we let for our roads, because it's not fair to our residents what's happening, at least on West Wimbledon.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Yes.
I didn't want to pile on. It was actually under the reports, but I will say, under the one email we got on conditions on Wimbledon, I happen to know this gentleman. He is not a complainer. He's one of the ones that will be quiet and quiet and quiet until you get to the point where he's done. So for him to send an email like that, I was actually quite surprised to see his name specifically, because he's a very upstanding guy, and he's done. And if that's an indication of those residents' mindset, I would be extremely concerned. Now, I know I did send you an email on this subject with a thought. You haven't had a chance to digest, look into it, or do anything about it, let alone get back to me. But I think it's something we do need to look at, though.
Okay, would the commission like an update from the city manager on the West Wimbledon project?
If appropriate.
That's what I was going to offer.
Okay.
All right. So first of all, the pictures that were sent in, it appears were probably taken just before the holiday, because since then the contractor has gone out and put more gravel over top of the road. To clarify a couple of different things, in those pictures that you saw, you saw people that were trying to park where it was all muddy, right up butting against the sidewalk. Just to clarify, that's Greenbelt area. It's not now, obviously. It's dirt. But that's the Greenbelt area. You're not supposed to park your car butting up to the sidewalk. There's that wide space that is not meant to be parking. What the contractors have done is lay a 20-foot wide width for the road down the entire area. That's where they put the extra aggregate and gravel to prepare the actual road surface. They did not go on the sides, okay? So we did reach out to the contractors. We did have a meeting with the contractors and our inspectors out there, and we have definitely agreed that while the road used to be 23 to 25 feet wide, the area that they've made the surface very hard in is only 20 feet. So what we are going to do is they're going to go out there and they're going to clearly delineate the areas where you are able to drive and where you should not be driving or parking. So it seems that because of the fact that the road was ripped up and the grass was ripped up for all of the utility work that was going on there, it's now not clear what part was the road and what part is the green belt and where the sidewalk is, et cetera. So they're going to mark with new like the linear pylons, the taller ones, where those areas are that you are not supposed to drive or park, and they'll put no parking signs. In addition, the contractor was already out there today starting to clean up some of the sidewalks because people were driving and parking right up butting to the sidewalk where the green belt is. Some of that dirt and mud has spilled onto the sidewalks, and particularly at the ADA ramps at some of the corners. So they have been addressing all of that. So that is something that's being done. And I think I talked to somebody today. I know we had received, there was a comment made that there hadn't been any response, and I do want to be sure that everyone understands that we did talk to one person in the manager's office, and I believe the engineering department had a request from somebody as well, and some of the inspectors have talked to people, and we are on it and we are monitoring it. It was obviously a particularly bad week last week when we had the deep freeze and then the 55-degree weather where everything melted and what have you. And the areas were not marked clearly in terms of what areas were supposed to be driven on and which ones aren't. So we are going to rectify that, but we'll keep monitoring on the situation. And if we need to add more gravel, more rock in certain areas to provide a more solid surface, we will do that. But we can't do the final treatments on the road due to the weather at this time.
And you can't put aggregate or gravel near the sidewalks because then when it reverts to being easement and green space, grass will never grow there.
They
if it's full
will
of
put a
gravel.
very small amount of it, but you can't just, you
Right.
can't, right.
You can't.
So they'll put a bit, and that's what was done, but it was not meant for driving on in that area. That's the former greenbelt area that's ripped up because of the utilities.
Look at geomatting.
Pardon me?
Look at geomats, because they allow grass to grow through them, they can stabilize surfaces. It's not as cheap, it's not as easy to throw down, but it has a significant stability and it will be a little bit more future-proof.
And hopefully, we think that once everything is clearly delineated and marked as to where you're supposed to drive, that will help. And even though the 20-foot wide area that is meant to be driven on is a little narrower than what it'll be when it's finished, there's still room for 2 cars to pass. There's no reason to pull.
Can you assure us that there is sufficient communication with the homeowners so that they at least, maybe they don't like it, but at least they're hearing from you?
Yes.
Good, thank you. Any other?
I have a question.
Okay.
The temporary gravel they're putting in there, who's paying for that? They are.
The contractor is putting it down, and it's part of the project, yes.
Okay,
We're not
and they've
charging
just
the home-
missed some areas.
Well, some areas were not meant to have gravel because they're supposed to be greenbelt areas, but they don't look like greenbelt areas.
I'm talking about the actual road.
Oh, the actual road, well, with all the freezing and thawing and movement, yes. If we need more in certain areas, we'll put more.
We do.
Thank you, Commissioner Host. I understand we have an opening in our engineering department, construction for a supervisor. Any other commissioner comments? Advisory boards, committees, commission reports, legislation, city staff? Any city staff? No? Okay.
That was the only thing I was actually going to bring up, just because a couple of you had forwarded that email to let you know that, yes, we are on top of it.
Okay, it is 9:51 PM and motion to adjourn. Seconded.